Okay, a very good evening, guys. Can you all let me know if you all can hear me and see a screen? Yes. Good. Right. Perfect. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start off learning in our fast track program. Now, I had a class yesterday where we did not learn anything. Instead, what we did was we planned out what we are going to do for the next 7 months. Just to check until the others also joined, did you all make up a plan last night on what to do this week for econ and your other two subjects? And hopeful that you will stick to that. So don't make a very tough plan. Also, like I said, make a small, realistic plan that you can do, Lavai. You all know what you need to do, right? So you know when you have your school term exams, you know when you have your class schedules. So based on that, make a small, realistic plan and stick to that. And in terms of your tudes and all of that, I have couriered, I think to almost everyone who has paid for now, except for a few people. Since I ran out of books, I couriered my personal copy also, and I couriered my sisters also come to class. I took their books also and couriered it as well. So I'm printing another 20 books, meaning there will be 20 more slots open if you have not yet paid and registered. But ideally, by this Friday, I will be closing off registrations. Especially, I don't want any of my past theory or revision class students who were a part of my class to miss this because slots were over. That's why I opened it up a little. But there will be a small delay to get those tudes printed. Hopefully, I think I should be able to get it printed by the next week, this weekend. And then hopefully by next Tuesday, whoever who pays and registers now should get your printed tude. For the rest of y'all, I have already couriered your tude. So please make sure to answer the phone and collect your tude. You might get a message from CityPack as well saying that your tude is on the way. Got it? Nice. Perfect. Hoping that the book looks good and the study plan also looks nice. We'll get started. Ideally, I'm looking at another 20 slots only because I've only printed another 20 books and I'm not printing more than that. And it will be allocated on first come, first serve basis. Okay. So now, just to give you all a brief again, Lavai, you all know, okay, the whole fast track program, we have 3 classes a week. So get this properly into your head because you need to know what you're doing every week. Because if you're not doing that, you're falling down. So every week there are 3 classes. When are the 3 classes? We have 1 class on Tuesday. That is the class that we are having right now. We have 1 class on Wednesday. And we have 1 class on Sunday early morning. So class times and all, you all know. On Tuesday, what we do is we recap the unit. So today, this week, our focus is on unit number 1. So in 3 hours, I will recap unit 1. So what do you need to do before the class? Before coming to the class on Tuesday, on Monday, you're supposed to read your theory note, your revision note, your school note, any note you have. You don't have to read everything. At least one of it. Take around 1.5 hours to 2 hours and just read that note. That is what you have to do on Monday. Yep. So on Monday, what do you do? On Monday, today is Tuesday. What were you supposed to do yesterday? Even if you have not done that now, it's okay. You're supposed to read your theory or revision note on Monday. That's where you start your week. Unit 1 theory revision note. It will take around 1.5 hours, 2 hours now. You don't have to memorize it. Just read through. Just see what is there. Put it into your head. Then on Tuesday, what you do is you take around 1 hour and read the summarized fast track note. Now, in your fast track book, there is like a 15-page summarized note. No, that's what I sent you all the PDF also. So in this tude that I'm sharing, page number 3 to page number 18. That's the summarized. So you need to read that and come before the class. Because remember, Lamai, this is a fast track program. This is not a theory class. So in my theory class, I teach unit 1 in, let's say, around 10 to 12 classes. So 10 to 12 classes of 2 hours each, that's around 24 hours. So I take 24 hours to teach unit number 1. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to summarize unit 1 in 3 hours. So for me to summarize unit 1 in 3 hours, I will only pick the very important areas, the most tested areas, and the difficult ones. I will not go into very, very basics. That is why you have to prepare before and come. Because otherwise it will be too fast. In 3 hours, when I summarize, you're completely lost. But if you have read the note and come before, under your product on track. That is why on Monday and Tuesday, you're supposed to do that. And then you come to class. So after today's class, once I have recapped unit number 1, what do you do? Tomorrow, we will be discussing the paper for unit 1. So in this tube itself, there is a paper. The answers for the paper is also there at the back of the book. But don't look at the answers, try to genuinely do it. I have printed and given you all the answers also. We will discuss it as well. You all can later check your answers and my answers and compare. That is fine. But when you all are doing the paper, try to genuinely do the paper so that you know where you are standing. You know if you're actually getting stuck or are you completely fine. So that paper is in page number. Now the PDF tute I have shared with you all in page number 19 of your tute. So this is just a 2-hour paper, not a long one. So what you can do is, now you all know tomorrow how your schedule is and all. Maybe after class today, you can do part of it. Ideal if you can do 2 hours at a stretch. But let's say if you don't have much time, this paper is product tricky, okay? So what you can do is maybe after class today, do the MCQs. There are 20 MCQs. And then there are 3 essay questions. 3 essay questions will take around 1 hour, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Maybe do 2 of it early morning. Do 1 after school. Somehow, tomorrow by 7 p.m., you should have finished this paper. You're not doing the paper during class. You're doing the paper beforehand and coming. And I will try my level best going forward also to upload this summarized recording by around 1 hour into the website. That will be there. So then on Wednesday, so after today's class, you're supposed to do the paper and then you come for the discussion. And also now in terms of the paper, now sometimes you all know your schedule is a little busy. Now tomorrow full day, you have some other class until night. So then what you can do is do the paper before. You can do the paper today also. Before today's class also, you can do the paper. On Monday also, if you want, you have the book with you. So don't give me that excuse saying, sir, Wednesday is very packed, sir. So Wednesday I can't do the paper. You do it before the paper has already been sent to you. Now you have the unit 1, 2, 3 papers. You can do it before and finish. So somehow get that done. So then once that is done, after tomorrow's discussion, now we again have our class on Sunday. So until Sunday, you can allocate some time for your other subjects as well. And you can do a little bit of this. So what you can do is on Thursday, you can do all the past papers, 2011 to 23. I will send the past paper PDF also if you all don't have. You can do that. Do the past papers the way I told you all to do. Don't just do all the papers at once. The way I told you. Yesterday I explained. You first do the 2011 MCQs, mark it, then move to 2012. Little by little you learn and go. That is how you get that done. That is past papers. Then after that, on Friday and Saturday, you can attempt the paper 2 questions, the essay questions. So here I am not expecting you to, if you can do from 2011, but since that will take some time, at least 2016 to 2019 on Friday, that's 4 years. So 4 years, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And then on Saturday, 2020 to 2023, that's another 4 years. Then I think that is okay. And after that, also make note of this. Now, all of these days, you all are learning small things in unit 1. At the end of the week, whenever you come through a difficult area, maybe in the theory, you didn't understand a past paper, you got stuck somewhere. So jot that down. That is why I have given some dotted lines over here. Yeah. So over here, areas to improve on and difficult questions. Whatever you find tricky, whatever you find challenging, you write it down here. So this topic is hard, this I didn't understand, this question I can't do, right? Anything you jot down there. And then on Sunday we have another class. There I will not be teaching anything new. You can come to class and you can send all your doubts you have. So this is specially designed for if someone is a little weak also. If you're a little weak, you can come on Zoom. You can send whatever doubts you have. Even the people who don't have doubts, you can come and listen to other people's doubts. Sometimes some students have very advanced level questions. So you can also listen to it and you can learn a lot. So you come there on Sunday, clear all the doubts you have. The time I have put is from 6:30 to 8 a.m. But no problem, I can go a little longer also if you all have doubts. And also you can, after you clear your doubt, if you have another class, you can leave and go. So you can send your messages on WhatsApp, on Zoom, you can send. You clear your doubt. If you want, you can leave. If you want, you can stay. But somehow make use of that Sunday class to clear whatever doubt you have. Because your goal is by end Sunday to become an expert of Unit 1. You're expert of Unit 1. That's the end goal. So that is this week. Then next week, we will go for Unit 2. So each week, we have a unit. In the 4th week, we'll do a big paper from Unit 1, 2, and 3 together. That's the plan. So please stick to it, Lama. It's not a very hard plan. I've not made it very unrealistic. My expectation is for you to allocate around 1.5 hours, 2 hours a day. So 1.5 to 2 hours a day, you should be allocating now with 7 months to go for your exam. If you're looking at an A or a little beyond an A, you should be allocating at least 5 hours now to kind of study. So that 5 hours can come 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, 1 hour at night. It can be anything. Can you refer the tutor to do the questions? I will recommend to try to do it alone. But if you are weak, that's okay. Even refer the tutor and try to do the question. But at least MCQs, try to do it alone. Okay. Now, any other questions, Lama, before we start? So we get started then. Okay. So we'll get started and we'll get going. So I'm going to recap unit number 1 in 3 hours. Before I start, there are a few things that I want to tell you. So in terms of unit number 1, now there is this concept sometimes. Some of y'all try to study, some some other units that are very difficult and challenging. Instead, I'll bring a small econ concept also into real world. Okay. Yeah, in case you miss your Sunday class, you can clear your doubts on any other class as well. On the Tuesday class, Wednesday class. If, I might have a few additional doubt clearing sessions also. You can come and clarify, no problem. Okay. So guys, you all would have heard in econ and all of it, there is this concept called specialization. You all know that, you all would have heard specialization. What is specialization? You become very good at doing something. So let's say, now unit number 1, you all know at the beginning I have put here. Right now in the very recent papers, you all get around 4 MCQs. In the recent papers, that is 2023, 2022, 2021, I looked at it. You get around 4 MCQs. Some past papers, there were sometimes 6 MCQs, but recent there were 4. So we'll say, we look in your year also, you're going to get 4 MCQs from unit 1. And definitely you're going to get 1 essay question. That is guaranteed. So then you're looking at 28 marks of your paper. So this week we are focusing on getting all that 28. We are not focusing on getting 20 out of 28. We're trying to get the maximum. You remember yesterday I told you, you shoot for the moon. So you aim for that 28 out of 28. You will at least get, let's say, 26. Not bad, no? So you aim for 28. So what you need to do is, even these units, now some of you all might realize, so unit 1 is easy, sir, why should I come to fast track and learn this? Because I will go through that. You will realize when you're doing the paper and when you do the mock exam at the end, it's the toughest areas. You try to get the best at unit 1 level. Because if you can score all these 28 marks, then you're good. No? You need to get how much? Remember, I told you from 5 units, you can get an A. So you need 1, 2, 3, and maybe 7 and 8, even for the weakest person. So you try to specialize in something. So if you're already good at unit number 1, don't stop there. Let's say now unit number 1, most of you all know it, no problem. No. Most of you all know the basics, right? Some small areas might be doubtful, but basic story you all need, that's the unit you studied the most. But don't stop there. You try to aim to get everything there. So that is the most important part. Essay questions also, right? Practice how to get all 4 out of 4 marks for essay question. Okay, do that. Okay. So we'll start now. So now again, I'm repeating, since this is a yes. So since this is a fast track class, we'll not go into very basic theory, and it's not easy for me also to summarize the entire unit in 3 hours, but I will do my level best and get that done. And one more thing, for those who are planning on getting a very good grade, let's say aiming at, let's say 95, 98 levels. Okay. Personally, I will not recommend doing the unit 1 essay question. Now, I remember when I was doing A levels also, Uh, I was also someone targeting to, do my level best and targeting somehow to get an island rank. The reason behind this is the essay question you get from unit 1. You would have seen the recent now. Last year paper was actually easy, but in the previous years, since everyone does unit 1, the examiner tries to make this question product hard. So out of 20 marks, now you all know essay question is for 20 marks. Now. Out of 20 marks, scoring, let's say 17 marks is easy. 17 out of 20 is easy. Now 17 out of 20, you do for all 5 questions, you get 85. But even though scoring 17 out of 20 might be easy, scoring, let's say, all 20 out of 20 is not easy for the unit 1 essay question, because the examiner tries to make it product tricky because everyone is doing unit 1. So he doesn't make it that easy also. So product, be a little careful. So if there is someone who is at a very good level like that, let's say you're already at the 90 level, it's a better. I will recommend something like question number 5 in your paper. We will focus on that next month. That is national income accounting and macroeconomic equity. Most students ignore that question, but that question is way easier than even question number 1. This is for the really smart people. The ones who are normally targeting for the 80, 85, you can focus on unit 1 because scoring that 17 out of 20 is not hard. Scoring that 20 out of 20 is only hard. So if you, depending on your level, put that into your head. Now, if you are a weak student, definitely do unit 1. Now, unit 1 is the easiest unit. I'm telling for someone who is a very high level, keep your options open. You study unit 1 also and go. But if unit 1 is a little difficult, and you have some backup other questions, you're also ready to do question number 5. Right, we'll start. So unit 1 is on Introduction to Economics. We are focusing on getting 28 marks in our paper. So we'll start off with the 2 branches of economics. You all know, there are 2 branches in economics. One is microeconomics, the other is macro. What is microeconomics? Microeconomics is where we focus on a small part of the economy. You don't focus on the entire economy, you focus on a small part of the economy. That's what microeconomics is about. So in our, for those who know, can you tell me which units in our syllabus are microeconomic units? Which one? Yes, we will do questions, don't worry. We'll talk. Which units, Lama? Unit number, what and what is from microecon? So unit number, so maybe you will keep unit 1 aside below, that's general. No? So you have unit number 2, demand, supply, and all of that. Unit number 3 and unit number 4. So in your syllabus, these 3 units are your microeconomics units. What is microecon? You focus on a small segment. You talk about a household, you talk about an individual, you talk about a firm. That is microecon. You see, examples, studying the demand and supply of a good, production function of a firm, production cost of a firm, market operation of a good. So you're talking about a small part of the economy. That is micro. Then what is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is where you talk of the entire economy as a whole, not a small part. You look at the entire economy. Examples like what? You see inflation. Remember we learned in unit number 7. So when we say inflation, do we say inflation of Colombo? Do we say inflation of this business? No, we say inflation rate of Sri Lanka. When you talk about economic growth, do you say economic growth of Colombo 5? No, you say economic growth rate of Sri Lanka. Broader economy. That's what you call macroeconomics. Micro, you focus on a small part. Macro, you focus on a large part. Now here, this area is not an area that you will get in paper 2. So far, they have not. Most likely, they will not test in your paper as well. But this is a very likely MCQ. In some of the A-level past papers, they give you a basic question and ask, which of the following is a microeconomic concept? So they will give you 5 examples. They can say which of the following is not a microeconomic. So when you all do the past papers, now you all are doing it on Thursday, Friday, you all will see that. Okay. Then those are the 2 branches. This is, you have unit number 5 to 12 in your syllabus, macroeconomics. Then also in economics, there are 2 types of statements. There are what? two types of statements. One is positive, the other one is normative statements. Again, a MCQ area. What are positive statements? Positive statements are like facts. It's about what will happen, what has already happened. It's a fact. It's about here. I say statements which answer questions of what happened and what will happen. Now, for example, we say there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demand. Law of demand, unit 2 we learn. That is about what will happen. That means if the price increase, and the quantity demand will come down. That's what a positive statement. It's a fact. So guys, what is the most important thing about a positive statement? A positive statement can be verified. What does that mean? That means you can test and see whether this is true or false. You can prove exactly. So yes, also can I tell you this? Can you all tell me, should a positive statement can a positive statement be false also? Now, for example, I am saying there is a positive relationship between price and quantity demand. When price is increasing, quantity demand is also increasing. Can I say that is a positive statement? Yes. Some of you all make this mistake. Some students think positive statements are the statements that are correct. Normative statements are the ones that are wrong. No, that's not how you look at it. Positive statements are facts. It can either be correct or it can either be wrong. You can prove it. You can check real world data and you can see. Yeah. So for example, a positive relationship exists between money supply and price. Anyone who remembers unit number 7, is this correct? Is there a positive relationship between money supply and price level? If the money supply tends to increase, will the prices in economy go up? Just think demand pull inflation, put a think and see. We learned quantity theory of money. I told something like MV equals PT. So no, what do you all think? So if the money supply increased, if the central bank, let's say, prints more money and money, right? Will the price level go up? Correct, no? Whether it's correct or wrong, we don't care. But still, I'm just trying to recall some unit 7 here. But this is, you can prove. You can see. Now, you also all are during the economic crisis. Remember Cabral and all, we learned how Cabral was printing money with Gota, right? They printed so much of money. And you saw when the money supply increased, how inflation started to go up. So that was proven. Positive statement. And then population growth rate in Sri Lanka is 1%. So we can calculate and see the level. We can see, okay, last year population 22 million. This year population, let's say 23 million. We can calculate and see how much is the growth and you can prove. So then that is what you call a positive statement. Then what are normative statements? Normative statements are things, those are personal judgments, your personal belief. So I am coming and telling, okay, so let's say, now here's my example. I am saying a country should increase monthly salary of every government worker by 5,000. Is there a true or false here? Correct or wrong? Can you say that? The country should increase government salaries by 5,000. Is there a true or false, right or wrong? No. These are opinions. So I am saying, look here, government workers, Paunomen, cost of living has gone up. These increase salary. You're coming and saying, sir, no, sir, these people, government workers, sir, they are always taking bribes and corruption. Don't increase salary. They are anyway getting money. Don't do it. That is your opinion. So there is no right or wrong here. So that's what normative statements are. And then here, a country should obtain foreign exchange. Now, which one of these do you all think they use to formulate economic policies in a country? When making economic policies, is it based on positive or normative statements? This is where some of you all get it wrong. Economic policies are based on normative statements. Shall I give you an example? Economic policies are based on normative statements. Now, for example, in the parliament, Ranil is coming and saying, look here, now you all know there is something called Aswasuma. No? Remember now there is something called Aswasuma, where they are distributing some money for the families every month. It's a transfer program we talked about. So Ranil is coming and saying, okay, look here, families are suffering. we should increase the Aswasuma benefit. We have to expand it. Right now, let's say only 2 million families are getting, we should expand it. And then Sajid is coming and telling in the parliament, yes, 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 we have to expand. Then Namal is coming in the parliament and saying, nah, don't do that, right? Come up with something else. So these normative statements, these are opinions. Ranil is giving out his opinion. He's saying, look here, we need to do this. Sajid is saying, yes, yes, yeah, you're good. I will agree with your opinion. Namal is saying, nah, make a we don't have money, we can't do this. Then let's say Anura Kumara is coming on the other side and saying, he's saying something else. So by debating these normative statements, the economic policies of a government, yes, yes, privatization, yes, good example. Now, right now, we also learned from Sri Lanka is trying to privatize some state-owned enterprises. So Ranil is saying, look here, we have to privatize the Sri Lankan airlines and all. Let's sell it to the private sector. Anura is coming and selling, no, 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 some of this we have to sell. Some sell is okay, but others don't sell. See, normative. Based on these, the economic policies of a country gets designed. Then also one more trick, there was a question on chat box also. Usually Lamai normative statements will have words like this, will have words like should, anything else? Should, ought, those kind of words are must, right? So these kind of words are keywords that you can see. Could sometimes, not really. Now, remember, Lamai, be careful. Just because this word is there, that doesn't mean it's a normative. You have to read carefully. But usually if words like these are there, those statements are normative statements. When you do some questions, you all will do on Thursday in the past papers, you can figure that out. Right. So that is that. Is that okay, Lama? Very basic thing. I'm not going into very detail. This you all know. Fine. Then we'll get into goods. So in economics, what is a good? We say anything that can satisfy human wants is what you call a good. Now, right now, you all have a want, or you all have a need to learn economics, do your exam well. What am I doing? I'm providing a class for that. I've designed a fast track program, made a dude doing a class, and I'm doing that. It's needs and wants. You can put both if you want. So anything that satisfies human needs and wants, or we can say wants broadly, is what you call a good. And then a good lamai provides positive satisfaction. What does that mean? That means when you consume a good, when I say consume, that doesn't mean eat. Now, even you're coming to this class means you're consuming my good, no? The service, you're consuming it. So at the end of this class, you have to have positive satisfaction. Now, if you're feeling bad at the end of this class, after 3 hours of learning unit, let's say after 3 hours of learning unit 1, if you feel in vain, I came to this class, I you aparad my 3 hours. If that is what you are having in mind, then this is not a good. That's a bad then. So you have to get a good is something that will give you positive. You have to feel good about it. You need to get some utility. That's how you define a good. Inflation rate in Sri Lanka, is it relatively high? Positive or normative? Depends. So relatively high, I would say it's a normative. So one person can say it's high. It's like a personal opinion. For example, if someone says inflation rate in Sri Lanka is 8%, now that's a positive state. If someone says Sri Lanka's inflation rate is relatively high, that's normative. Now, I might feel 8% is high. You might feel 8% is okay. So depends on how they have worded it. Okay. Then, if you take goods, goods can be broadly classified into two. What are the two? Economic goods and non-economic goods. Now, you all have to be very mindful when doing what? When defining this. I have seen some people write utter rubbish. Some people go and write non-economic goods are the goods provided by the government. Nonsense. That is not how you define. So, basic criteria is an economic good is a good that is scarce in nature. Scarce, it is limited. An economic good is a good that is scarce. That is the keyword. It is limited. Any good that is unlimited in supply, that is what you call non-economic. So don't go and write non-economic goods are goods supplied by the government. I have seen that people writing there also. What are the examples of non-economic goods? Goods that are unlimited. Mean here, air, rainwater, sunlight, are those supplied by the government? No. And same thing with public goods. We will learn that in unit number 8. Some people go and define public goods by saying provided by the government. Yes, government provides it, but that's not how you define. When you all are defining, writing answers, those keywords are essential. Don't go and write nonsense. Now you all know the basics. Now it's about getting better at it. So focus there. So then I'll talk about non-economic first and come here. I say goods with unlimited supply at zero price are called non-economic goods. Then here they are saying there is no resource cost. What is resource cost? Resource cost means cost of production for your resources. Rent, wages, interest, profit. That is what we call resource cost. For land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, you have to pay rent, wages, interest, profit. So to produce a non-economic good, there is no resource cost, right? Do you have to spend money to produce sunlight? No, those are unlimitedly, they are available in nature. Yep. There is no resource cost and opportunity cost. No opportunity cost also, because they are unlimited, right? When you're using sunlight to dry your clothes, do you have to forego something else? Do you have to sacrifice something else? No. So no resource cost, no opportunity cost. And also, these are not produced with the intervention of man. They are gifts of nature. So those keywords have to be there when you all are writing an answer. Then on the other hand, what is an economic good? Is it economic goods are produced with the intervention of man and with the combination of resources. As economic goods are produced with scarce resources, there is an opportunity cost. And there is also a choice that arises. We'll talk about that later now. Okay. Something like rainwater, you can say it's a non-economic good. Something like maybe bottled water, tap water, you can say economic. It depends on what water you're talking about. Then also one key thing. Can I say economic, now non-economic goods, I am saying supplied at zero price. Can I say economic goods always has a price? Is that correct? There is a price for the consumer. There is always a price to the consumer in terms of economic good. Can you all say that? Yes or no? Is there always a price? Now, economic goods are produced using scarce resources. There is an opportunity. Now, for example, think of this class that you're attending now. The class that you're attending is an economic good. I am using my scarce resources, my time, my energy, my current, my internet and everything. And I'm coming and doing this class. Some of you all are yes registered students. Some of you all are joining here for free. So can you say that economic goods always have a price? No. So don't go and say that under characteristics of economic goods has a price is not a characteristic. Remember that. Because most of the economic goods, yes, has a price. But it is not an essential kind. You all know, even in government school. So government schools, you all go to school for free. You all get textbooks for free. Textbooks are economic goods. Even though consumer doesn't pay a price, the government incurs a cost. So you can't, this has a price thing, Lamai. Be careful in MCQs. If they say economic goods have a price, it's not an essential characteristic. Resource cost, I think I went through it before. Resource cost means the cost for your land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Rent, wages, interest, profit. That's your resource cost. Okay. No, this is not from Prasanna Pereira's. This is from the teacher's guide main. You can read Professor Prasanna Pereira's book. It's a good book. Has a little bit too advanced, but if you're someone who is smart enough, you can go. Okay, so that's that. Then coming into economic bads. So what's an economic bad level? Yeah, resource cost and cost of production are the same thing. What's an economic bad? An economic bad is something that gives you negative satisfaction. Something that gives you negative satisfaction. The presence of that gives you negative satisfaction. It gives you disutility. That is what you call an economic bad. Yes, economic bad is the opposite of an economic good. A bad is anything with a negative value to the consumer or a negative price in the marketplace. A bad is what here? The presence or the consumption of it lowers utility. Right. Is something like, okay, good question. Is a demerit good and an economic bad the same thing? Now, demerit goods are goods that give negative externalities in consumption. We learned this in unit number 8. Example, no, you don't have to buy profit percentage. It's a little too advanced. Okay. For example, alcohol, demerit good. Smoking, demerit good. Are these also economic bads? What's the difference? Now, alcohol, cigarettes, those are all demerit goods. I agree. Is it the same? It's not the same. Now, I'll give you a simple example on how to find the difference. The difference is, see if people are paying money. That's a very easy way to figure out. You see, economic bads are has a negative price. Negative price කියන්නේ people will pay money to get rid of it. Negative price. Now, usually people pay money to buy something. No? Negative price you're paying money to get rid of it. So what are the examples? Here, garbage, any diseases, something like COVID-19 diseases. You can take snow. In snowing countries, snow. People will pay money to clear the roads and get rid of the snow. You will pay money to get a vaccine and get rid of the disease. You will pay money to the garbage guy to take your garbage and go. That's what you call economic bad. It provides this utility. Yes, pollution. You will pay money to get rid of pollution. So those are economic bads. You pay money to get rid of it. But then something like cigarettes, alcohol, do you pay money to get rid of it? What nonsense. Go before a power day and see in Cargill or some, look at the queue in the place to buy alcohol. Queue in front of the bar. Especially before a power day. Power days bars are closed. Go and see. You think people are paying money to get rid of alcohol? No. There are queues, people standing to buy alcohol. People are standing and waiting to buy cigarettes. So, demerit goods. Demerit goods, we say, I'll talk about this later when we come to unit number 8, right? That's a unit number 8 topic. But yes, they can connect and ask. So, that's a good that has a negative externality in consumption. What this is, if you have not learned, don't worry, we'll come. But remember, this is not the same as an economic bad. Economic bad is something that provides this utility. Now, for example, alcohol and smoking and all. Whoever who is consuming is feeling satisfied. Let's say I am someone who is, let's say, a full addicted to alcohol. I pay money and I drink something. So I feel good about it, right? So you can't say that is economic bad. Yes, maybe terrorism you can put as economic bad. Okay, that's the thing. Then okay, this thing is also fun. Then the next question is, can we convert economic goods to non-economic goods? Can we convert economic into a non-economic? So a good that has been scarce and produced using human intervention, can you convert it into something that is unlimited and freely available? And can you do that? You can't. Yes. Once you make a good already resources have been used. Economic, you can't convert to non-economic. Can you do the other way? Can you convert a non-economic good, right? A non-economic good, something like air, rainwater. Can you convert this into an economic good? Yes or no? Can you do this? Can you convert something that is unlimitedly available? Can you convert that into something that is man-made and limited availability? You can, no? Can you give me an example? This one you can. Can you give me some example? Good thing is bottled water. Now, if you look at water, rainwater, water in the river, those are non-economic resource, unlimited. But once you purify it, once you put it into a bottle, that becomes economic. Then what about oxygen tanks? Same, no? If you look at oxygen, there are so many tanks that are there, right? Now, normal oxygen that we breathe are unlimited, non-economic. But if you give this, put it into a tank and give it to, let's say, a diver, you give it to a patient in the hospital, and it becomes economic. Yes, solar panel, same example. So all of that is possible. But that's what I have put over here. Okay? Although there is no room to convert economic to non-economic, what can you do? There are situations where non-economic goods can become economic goods. I've given some examples as well. Fine. Yes, so many examples. Yes, I get around, my messages keep going. So in case I miss one of your messages, don't feel bad, right? Your example, keep getting. Right. Sand from race are taken for construction. I will say avoid that. Okay. Now, we learned resources. Sorry, we talked about goods, economic, non-economic, and also we touched a little bit of balance. So now we are getting into resources now. If you look now, if you take goods, how are goods produced? Goods are produced using resources. So we'll talk a little bit about that now. Okay? All inputs used to produce goods and services are what we call resources. So if you take production resources, again can be classified into two: non-economic resources and economic resources. Economic resources are also what you call, Lama, your factors of production. So here also, economic, non-economic mean the same thing. What is the difference? So economic resources are the resources that are limited in supply. So our factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, they are limited in supply and demand. That are economic, those are economic resources. And then when you use those economic resources, there is an opportunity cost. You will end up with a choice that you have to do. Then what are non-economic resources? Non-economic resources are the resources that are what? Resources that are non-scarce. Non-scarce can, you know, they are unlimited. It's not limited. You have unlimited amounts of those. And they are gifted by nature. What kind of things? Sunlight, air, rainwater. Same examples as non-economic goods. That is because there is no production process. The resource and the good is the same. No production. You don't make sunlight. You don't make rainwater. That's why the resource and the good is the same. The examples are the same. So non-economic resources and non-economic goods. Sorry. Economic resources and non-economic resources. That's how you divide your production. It's very basic area, so I'm not going into very detail because these are things that you all kind of know. So we'll go a little bit into detail on this. Economic resources, in other words, that is your factors of production between non-economic resources. So resources are the inputs, goods is the final thing. But in terms of example, now you all know now, resources, once they go into a production process, becomes the good. Now, why is the non-economic resource and the non-economic good the same thing? Because there is no production process. So, for example, resource also you take sunlight. For the good also you take example as sunlight. Because no one makes sunlight, right? That's why that is the. Yeah, so you can now, for example, you can use non-economic resources to produce not non-economic goods, you can use it to produce economic goods. Now, for example, I can use something like sunlight. Sunlight is an uneconomic resource. I can use it to produce economic good. You can use it in the production process. I'm not saying that you can't use it. No, scarce doesn't mean resources. Scarce means limited. That's what scarce means. All economic resources are natural resources. No. All non-economic resources, you can say, are natural resources. Yes. All non-economic. Anything that is unlimited, freely available. Okay, tell me this number. Okay, good question. Tell me whether this is correct or wrong. Okay, tell me whether this is correct or wrong. All non-economic resources, all non-economic resources are natural resources. Yes or no? Can I say that? All non-economic, that is resources that are available in unlimited terms, air, sunlight, rainwater. I'm saying all non-economic resources are natural resources. Yes or no? Can I say that? I can say that. That is correct. Can I say this? Can I say all natural resources are non-economic resources? Can I say this the other way? Do you agree with me here? Can I say all natural? So natural means anything gifted by nature. Trees, rivers, sunlight, water, gold, coal, crude oil, different other minerals. Can I say all? Those are all natural. Can I say all of those? They are non-economic. Non-economic means unlimited, freely available anymore. Can I say that? That you can't. No. Got it? Because why? Why are all natural resources not non-economic? Now, for example, if you take something like, let's say, diamonds, something like, let's say, gold, something like oil, they are natural resources gifted by nature. We don't produce crude oil from our machine. Crude oil, they dig and they extract. Natural resource. But is it non-economic? No, limited. So be very careful there. All non-economic you can say are natural. All natural you can't say. I don't know. So basically, this is how it works. So difference between economic good and a resource. So a resource is what is used to produce a good. So economic goods, we say, directly fulfills human needs and wants. Scarce, has opportunity cost. Economic resource is something used to produce an economic. So for example, economic resources, well, you take land, labor, capital. That is the resource. You use that to produce economic goods. That's the difference over there. And then, okay, one more thing. Now, if you take natural resources, now there is a question, I think, in the paper also. I will cover these small things. If you take natural resources, it can be divided into, there are some natural resources that are limited. Some natural resources are unlimited. The natural resources that are unlimited, these we can call non-economic. Correct? Example, sunlight. You can call this non-economic resource. Sunlight, rain, air, and natural resource, unlimited. Those are non-economic. But there are also some natural resources that are limited in nature. Can you give me some examples? Natural resources which are limited. Okay, you can take, yes, that also gets broken to renewable, non-renewable, correct? Okay, wood, coal, oil, gold, different minerals. So then what do you call those? What do you call the natural resources that are limited? So examples fine. What do you call this? This is what you call, now I know this. Okay, now for example, something like trees. So can you say that it is non-renewable? Now trees are renewable. Something like fish in the ocean. It's not renewable, non-renewable. What are these called? All natural resources that are limited, that is called land. Remember, land, labor, under economic resources, you have land. You can't call all of it economic. Yes. Economic resources have more than this. So all the natural resources that are limited, under ekata tamai we call it land. So under economic resources, now economic resources mean the resources that are limited. So under these limited resources, the natural ones, that's what you call land. Yeah? Natural resources gifted from nature, which can be used. But you all need to remember, these are the limited natural resources. Because the unlimited natural resources go under non-economic. The limited natural resources go under economic resources land. Here, example, different minerals, rivers, wild animals. When I say air here, I'm not looking at oxygen, but I'm looking at these rare gases. Okay, that is that. That is that. Then, what are the characteristics? So I'll quickly run through Lamai since we need to cover up the entire unit. Basic characteristics are, we say, gift of nature. That means it is not man-made, gifted by nature. Supply is inelastic. Inelastic means you can't easily increase the supply. Now, let's say, for example, the number of trees. Can you increase the number of trees tomorrow if you want? No. You can increase, but you have to plant. Then in, let's say, around 5 years, some big trees will come. That's why it's hard to increase. That's why I say inelastic. Then immobility. You can't move it around. And then you can improve productivity of it. Non-uniform. It's not the same. And also we say payment for land being right. Some basic stuff we know. Then Lamal, what is under factors? Under economic resources, we also have labor. So what is labor? Labor, we say, are the physical and mental efforts of human beings. No, it's a life factor. There is mobility. You can have geographical and occupational mobility. Heterogeneity, it's one person's labor is not the same as another person's labor. You can improve productivity. Now, for example, by coming to this class, by learning what is happening through education, you're improving your productivity, no? Possibility to make decisions, all of that is there. Then what is capital? Capital, we say, are man-made aids, which can be used in the production work. Like what? Machines, buildings, factories, furniture, computer, laptop, my Wi-Fi. So anything made by man, which aids in the production process, under we call it capital. And then you have the factors there as well. Conduct, have a read through, Lamai. I'm not going into very detail. Then also, Lamai, there are types of capital. I have not highlighted this in this summarized note. You can go through this in detail. It's there in our theory class. No. And some of this I cover in the paper. Tomorrow we will do a paper. I will cover this circulating capital, economic overhead capital, social overhead capital. There is areas that I cover there. Okay. What is this term? Can someone tell me what is this? What is being a stock factor mean? Under capital, there is a characteristic that says stock factor, or you can call it a stock concept. I would have taught you all this in theory. What's the difference between a stock concept and a flow concept in economics? There are two concepts, stock and flow. What is stock and flow? So a stock concept is something, Lama, it can be measured. It can be measured at a given point of time. At a given point of time. For example, I can say exactly as at this point, I have this much of capital. Then what is a flow concept? A flow concept is something that you measure for a period of time. Can you tell me this, Lama? I'll give some small examples. Tell me salary, a person's salary. Is it a stock concept or flow concept? Can I say my salary as at 16th April 7:54 p.m. is 100,000? That is exact at this point. That is stock concept. Or can I say my salary for the month of April is 100,000? That's a period of time. That's a flow concept. Exactly at this point, can I say? Or do I say it for a period? For a period, right? If you take something like, if you say something like salary, it's a flow concept. So people say for a period. Now, what about something like GDP, Laman? A country's GDP. What about that? A country's GDP, Sri Lanka's GDP. Do we say Sri Lanka's GDP as at 16th April this is this? Or do we say Sri Lanka's GDP for the year 2023 is this? For the year, right? That's a flow concept for a period of time. Then now, for example, okay, something like wealth. let's say my bank balance. How can I say that? Can I say my bank balance as of 16th April 7:55 p.m. is 100,000? Or do I say my bank balance in April was 100,000? I can say exactly at this point, right? Exactly at this point, my bank balance is 100. That's a stock concept. That's the difference between that. That's why we say capital is a stock factor limit. So I can say at this given point, okay, now I can say if someone asks me, okay, what is your capital at this given point? I can say, right, I have one laptop, I have a chair, I have a table, I have a Wi-Fi, I have a fan running. This is my capital. Exactly, I can tell at this point what I have. That's the difference between a stock and a flow. Then we'll get into this. And also, guys, now one more reminder that I will also be starting a free past paper class. Now, in this fast track, when we are recapping theory, I don't have much time to go through these very small parts because I have to finish it in 3 hours. So in our past paper class, when we get certain questions relating to those certain areas, I will go in detail because past paper class, we have time. I will take my time. I will explain very much things in detail. So definitely be a part of that. It will be completely free. No payment. You can completely join. It will be in that free class group. That's why that free class group is there. Okay. And then we also say that money is not capital. This part I will skip for today because I will come to this tomorrow in the paper. Why is money not capital? You all already know. We'll come to this in detail in the paper. Then am I going into entrepreneurship. So what is entrepreneurship? So land, labor, capital, they can't work alone. No, man. There needs to be some fellow who is going to combine all of this and get them to work. He's the fellow whom you call an entrepreneur. That's entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? Combining all the factors of production, organizing the production activity, and carrying out the whole production pro. That is what you call entrepreneurship. And then you have the characteristics of it. You have functions of an entrepreneur and the difference of entrepreneurship and other factors. Now, this part is a very easy one. So I will recommend you all to read. And this is something now I highly tested in past papers. So if you look at in past papers, from the 4 factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship is the one mostly tested. They can ask you for the differences between entrepreneurship and other factors. They can ask you what are the functions of an entrepreneur. So product, go through that. When you are doing some past papers, you all will recover. You all will recap that area in our past paper class also in detail. I will go. Since it's very basic, I am not going into detail right now. Okay. Right. Is that okay? Fine. Right. Then I'll be doing the next part and then I'll give you all a small break. I'll be doing scarcity, alternative users choice, and the basic economic problems. And from here, I will give you a small break before I get into economic systems. Then I will do economic systems. And before I get into PPC, I will give you another small break. So there are mainly I'll divide into 3 sections. So we'll quickly do this. I'll take around 10 minutes and we can wrap it up. Okay. So you all know now the basics you all know. The central problem of economics. What's the central problem of economics? We call the central problem of economics is what we call scarcity. So how does scarcity arise? Or what does scarcity actually mean? Now, scarcity arises because of 2 reasons. One is that human bonds are unlimited. If you take humans, we have unlimited bonds. We want so many different things. But the resources that we have to satisfy these wants are limited. So unlimited wants plus limited resources gives rise to what? Leads to this problem called scarcity. So how do you define scarcity? We say scarcity is what? It is the limitedness of resources compared to your unlimited ones. So we say scarcity is a relative concept. What is a relative? Is this your uncle or auntie? What does relative here mean? Relative means scarcity doesn't mean that we don't have resources. That is not what scarcity is not saying that we don't have resources. It is not that. Scarcity is saying compared to our unlimited wants, relative to our unlimited wants, our resources are limited. That is what scarcity is. Now, don't go and say, Lamai, scarcity means the economy does not have resources. Scarcity means there are no resources. No, that is not what is scarcity. Scarcity means compared to our unlimited wants, relative to our unlimited wants, our resources are limited. That is what scarce. That's why we say it's a relative concept. And also, Lamai, we say scarcity is a universal problem, or we say it's the central problem of economics. Now, can you eliminate scarcity? Can you all tell me, if you use your resources very carefully, without wastage, if you economize, I will say, can you eliminate scarcity? Can you get rid of it? Yes or no? What do you think? You're not wasting your resources, you're using it very carefully. Economically, you're using your land, labor, capital on it. Can you solve the scarcity problem? Can you? You can't. Why? Because no matter how carefully you use your resources, remember, no matter how carefully you're using your resources, your bonds are unlimited. So you can't solve scarcity. Then what if I tell very rich people or very developed economies, do they have scarcity? What do you all think? People like, let's say, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, let's say very developed economies like USA, do they face scarcity? They have so much of resource, any amount of money they have so much of things. Do they have scarcity? They also have, because no matter how much resources they have, their wants are also unlimited. That's why we say scarcity is like a relative concept. You might be the richest person in the world, but compared to your human wants, your resources are limited. That's why it's a universe. So you can't solve scarcity unless human wants become limited. That will never happen. If human wants become limited, then the scarcity is solved. But unless that happens, or resources have to be unlimited. That also won't happen. Either your resources have to become unlimited or your wants have to be limited. If one of that happens, then scarcity is solved. Then there is nothing called economics also. You also won't have a job. You also won't have a subject. But that is not the case. Resources are limited. Human wants are unlimited. That gives rise to scarcity. So it's common to every society. And also, no, poor person doesn't have limited wants. A poor person might be able to satisfy limited wants, but if you go and ask a poor person what he wants, I will buy you anything, he will give you 100 things. So you can't say that a poor person has limited wants. He also has unlimited wants. Maybe he can't satisfy most of his wants. That's a different story, but wants are unlimited. And then also we say any society will face scarcity. Now, is scarcity and a shortage the same? Is a shortage and a scarcity the same? Now, for example, you all remember, Lamai, there was a fuel shortage in Sri Lanka. I remember during the crisis time, remember around 2 years ago, right? People had to stand in queues. Like, so can I say that it is a scarcity in fuel? Is it correct? Now, they can give you practical questions. They can say, for example, Sri Lanka faced the scarcity in fuel during the economic crisis. You all agree? Is it scarcity? Was there a scarcity of fuel? That is not scarcity. That is what you call shortage. Then what's the difference between shortage and scarcity? What's the difference? Shortages can be solved. That's the main difference. If you take a shortage, that is a temporary thing. You can solve this. Now, let's say in the market, there are no eggs. When the eggs come tomorrow, now these are the stories. Sometimes you go in the evening to buy eggs in the supermarket, there are no eggs. You have to go early morning to buy. That's a shortage. So tomorrow, when again eggs get restocked, and the problem is solved. Fuel also same. When Sri Lanka didn't have the dollars, when we didn't have the dollars to buy it, under fuel shortage. But once money came in, IMF came and supported, and we got our fuel solved. So shortages can be solved, but scarcity, Poverty is a different concept. We'll come to it when we go through unit number 11 and 12. If resources are unlimited, will the present if resources are unlimited, scarcity will be present, but not as a fundamental. Scarcity will not be present if resources are unlimited. Because then you don't, scarcity is the limited resources compared to unlimited ones. If you have unlimited resources, you can say there is no scarcity. Okay, right. Now, if you look at now what we are trying to say, we are trying to say that our resources are scarce. Then these scarce resources, they have what? They have alternative uses. You can do different things, no? So if you take a plot of land, if you take labor, if you take a machine, these are scarce. So these scarce resources have different alternative uses. With a plot of land, you can build a playground, put a supermarket, give it for parking, give it for rent, build a school. You can do everything. There are alternative uses. But can you do all of this? With your scarce resources that have alternative, can you do everything? Let's say they give you a plot of land. Can you do everything that you want with this plot of land? Can you build a school and playground and give it for parking and put a supermarket and give it for rent to someone else also? Can you do all of that? No. Then what do you have to do? If your scarce resources have alternative uses, you need to make a what? You need to make a choice. That is what leads to. So you all need to know this connection now. There is no point memorizing these definitions one by one, because in your paper, they ask you the connection. They ask you, for example, explain how scarcity leads to choice. So you say, this is what scarcity is. Then these scarce resources have alternative uses. You can't do all of this. When you do one of it, another you have to make a choice. Then when you make a choice, it leads to what? From different alternative uses, when I select a choice, when I select, I'm going to do this. Now, in this 3 hours, all of you all decided, right? I'm going to come to this class. That's a choice you made. With your time, with your mobile data, with your Wi-Fi, with your everything, you decided, okay, I'm going to come to this class and listen and wait of this fellow talking. What happens? There is a opportunity cost. Opportunity cost gets created. Now, then is opportunity. Now, for example, let's say I had a plot of land. Now, in my plot of land, I could have done these 3 things. I could have constructed the factory, done farming, or built a playground. So I will go with my best option. So when I selected this, can you tell me which one is my opportunity cost? If this is ranked as first, second, third, what is my opportunity cost? Is my opportunity cost farming and the playground, the benefit I get from both of it? Or is the opportunity cost the benefit that I lose from farming? Both or only farming? What is my opportunity cost? That's another place that students make mistakes. Now, opportunity cost is the benefit foregone, not from all the alternatives. Opportunity cost is the benefit foregone from your next best alternative. So then if someone goes and says the opportunity cost of constructing a factory is the harvest I could have got from farming and the benefit I could have got from a playground, no, it's not both. Opportunity cost is only the benefit from your next best. So it's only farming. So whatever, but now also, should opportunity cost always be a monetary concept? Should opportunity cost always be in money? What do you all think? Should my opportunity cost, for example, be 1,000 rupees? It doesn't always have to be money now. Now, for example, now let's say if I build a farm, let's say, that nice environment, the peace of mind, that is the benefit I would have got. It doesn't have to be money. Now, for example, you attended this class. Maybe if not for this class, you would have gone and slept early. That is your opportunity. It's not money. So opportunity cost doesn't have to be money now. So you don't have to. It can be money also. We'll come to it a little in unit number 4. But opportunity cost doesn't always have to be a financial. It doesn't always have to be a financial. So that is opportunity cost. So what is opportunity cost once again, Lavai? It's the benefit foregone from your next best alternative. So for example, let's say you had 1,000 rupees, another example, you had 1,000 rupees. So with this 1,000 rupees, one thing you can do is you can buy a potti. That is your first priority because you're very hungry. Second thing you can do is, let's say you can pay class fees. I don't know if you can play class fees, but this. Third thing you can do is you can go for a movie. So you have ranks first, second, third. So if you decided to use your 1,000 rupees to buy a kottu, your opportunity cost would be whatever benefit you could have gained by attending the class. It's not everything. It's your second. It's your next best alternate. I have explained that in this. I'm hoping you all read the note and came down because I'm not reading word by word. So please keep that in mind. Take that very seriously. Before you attend this 3-hour discussion, Monday you read your theory or revision note. On Tuesday you read this fast track note and come. Then only it makes sense. And then while the class is going, ask questions. Then that's how you get it clarified. Because I'm not going into very basics. Good question. Why do we only consider second alternative? Because Namai, if not for the first one, if not for constructing the factory, I can't do all of the others. No? If not for the factory, can I do farming? Can I build a playground? Can I, let's say, give it for a parking space? Can I do all of this? Then, because if not for the parking, I could have only done farming. That's why we only take that as your opportunity cost. You can't take everything. You can't say, now, for example, if not for coming for this class, okay, tell me, Lama, if not for this class, what you all would have done during this 3 hours? Give me the alternative uses of this 3 hours time and your effort and all. Okay. You would have studied business studies. Okay. Some of you all would have slept. Okay. Some of you all would have read a book. Okay. Some of you all would have gone out. So can you say, now your priorities, you decided, okay, I'm going to come to this econ class. Can you say, if not for this econ class, you could have done all of this? Can you say that? Could you have studied business studies, done accounting question, gone and 8-10, had a this thing? All of it bad element. Only one of it, right? That's why opportunity cost is taken as the next best alternative, not everything. No, next best alternative, there won't be two. There's always going to be one better than the other. Okay. That's how that comes. Right. That's also fine. Then all the options program. So all of these now you can say trade-offs. You can say these are trade-offs. You have to sacrifice. If you want to get this, you have to trade off those. All the options can be considered trade-off. The next best is what you call opportunity. Yes, financial monetary concept means same. Then can there be situations where there is no opportunity cost? Usually there is opportunity cost when you try to do something, you will sacrifice something else. So can there be situations where there is no opportunity cost? Otherwise, when opportunity cost is zero. So opportunity cost is zero, okay, and there is no opportunity cost. So can there be situations? Yes, there can be 3 situations. What are the 3 situations? The 3 situations are: 1, when resources are unlimited. So when you have unlimited resources, it's no opportunity cost. For example, when you have something like, now think of the oxygen, now because you're breathing on, there's unlimited oxygen. Because you're breathing this oxygen, are you sacrificing anything else? No. Because you're drying your clothes using sunlight, are you sacrificing anything else? No. So there is what? When resources are unlimited in nature. No, not homogeneous factors, don't put unwanted things. So existence of non-economic goods or resources, for example, sunlight, air. So these kind of things, they are unlimited. So you don't have to, there is no opportunity cost. Another place where opportunity cost is zero is when there is absence of alternative uses. Absence of alternative uses. Example. Remember, I told you all this example of a ship anchor. Remember, what's a ship anchor? That big thing that when the ship comes to the shore, to put it and keep so that the ship doesn't move around. That's a ship anchor. So that the only use of that is to put that and keep like that. There is no any other alternative use. Yes, okay. Dental mirror. Let's say a bridge. Let's say, for example, I'll give you a close example. Let's say my pencil that I'm using here. So let's say the pencil that I'm using here. The only alternative use of it, is to write it on my iPad. I have my iPad, I can write. There's nothing else I can do. No, I can't use this pencil to write on a book. I can't use this for, I only have one iPad. I can't use it on anything else. I can't, there's nothing else I can do with it, right? So just because I use this pencil to write on my iPad right now, I am not sacrificing anything else. Because there's nothing else I can do with it. No, if not for using this on my iPad, I will just keep it, put it into my back cover and keep it there. That's why we say no alternative uses. Yes, clock tower could be. Right? There is no opportunity cost. And then third, if resources were previously unemployed, if the land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, if they were unemployed, if they were not doing anything, if they were just there, and now you use it, you're not giving up anything there also, right? That also makes it zero opportunity cost. Yes, maybe even my webcam. Fine. We're not consuming public goods. Yeah, public goods also, there could be zero opportunity cost. Consume. Instead of opportunity cost, we say there is zero marginal cost. We'll come to unit 8. Is that okay, Laman? Some basics of opportunity cost, scarcity, and how that story connects. Hoping you all are okay. And I'm hoping there is no one learning these for the first time, Laman, because I'm not teaching this for the first time. Just hope and pray you all are not using this for the first time. Clock tower, shade. Okay, but you don't have to sacrifice it, right? Just because you look at the time, that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your shade. Unemployed resource means resources that are not being used. Now, for example, let's say there's a person without a job. There's a machine that is not being used. That's what you say there. Savings investment, I'll come to it. It's there in the past paper also. I'll come to it. I think in the paper also there is a question. Even though land is unemployed, as a decision of employing it won't have alternative uses. No, so just now, if it's unemployed and if you're using it now, that you're not sacrificing anything. Let's say there's a plot of land. It was just there. No one was using it. Nothing was being happened. So now you decided to do something in that. So then you're not sacrificing anything, right? That's the point. So point 3 is when they're unemployed. For example, okay, so let's say, okay, in your house, okay, do you all have a phone in one of your almirahs, an old phone that you all have been using before? Now it's just put in almirah and kept. Some old phone, maybe your mother's or father's or your previous phone, some small errors were there. Now you're not using it, you put in almirah and kept. There is an old phone like that. Just assume if you have one, think of that. If you don't have one, imagine there is one like that. Your father's old phone. Now he has upgraded to a new phone. He has put that in almirah. Now, is anyone using that phone now? It's just put in the almirah and kept in a box inside a drawer. It is what? It's unemployed. And it's just not being used. So now let's say now your phone broke. Your phone broke. So now you took that phone that is just there in the almirah, closed and kept. Now you took it and you started using. Are you sacrificing anything? Is there an opportunity cost? Do you have to let something else go? No, right? Because it was just there, right? It was just there, closed in the almirah, doing nothing. That's why we are saying. So when there are unemployed resources, when you're using unemployed resources, there is no opportunity cost because those resources were just idling and doing nothing. So what opportunity cost? That's the point. Right. Then the last part before we take a small break is the basic economic problems. Something else. No, a ship anchor, no, right? A ship anchor for decoration. No, I'm talking about a real ship anchor, not like a fake deco, not the one that you might have in your chain and not that. I'm talking about a real ship anchor that's in a ship. There's no other alternative use of it, right? In a ship, the big ship anchor, the tons and tons of heavy ship anchor. Yes, you keep at a museum. That is, you don't build the ship anchor to keep it at the museum. Maybe after the ship is wrecked, you might put it there. Generally, you can argue about that, but generally there is no alternative use there, if not for that. Yeah. Right. Then coming into the basic economic problems part. So now because of this scarcity, because of the fact that these economies have limited resources, every economy out there has to answer three problems. So these are also what you call the functions of an economic system. Or in other words, the choices that an economic system has to make. So what are the three basic economic problems? One is what to produce in what quantity, how to produce, and then whom to produce. So what is this what to produce? If you take a country that has a scarcity, they can't produce everything that people want, Elaman. With the amount of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship they have, they need to decide what goods they are going to produce in what quantity. So let's say Sri Lanka, let's say we have 10 million labor, let's say 1 million capital. We have this much of entrepreneurs. We have this much of land. So with those, we have decided, okay, what goods and services we are going to produce and in what quantity, because we can't produce everything. We can't produce rockets and motor vehicles and phones and everything back. We have decided what we are going to produce. That's the first thing. So every economic system has to decide what to produce in what quantity, what to produce in what. Then once you have decided what to produce in what quantity, then the economy has to decide how to produce. So how to produce, there are two techniques. One is labor intensive production, where you use more labor than capital. And then you have capital intensive production, where you use more capital than labor. So you have decided, okay, which one is the better one? Do I produce this with more labor or do I produce this with more capital? You have decided that. You have decided on how to produce. So you decide what to produce. You decided on how to produce. And now let's say you produce the good. Now, once you produce the good, now you have to decide how to distribute the good. Whom are you going to give this to? Are you going to give everything to one person who can pay the money? Are you going to equally give it to everyone? That is what you call the last one, whom to produce. Whom to produce is what we call the problem of distribution. How do you distribute the total production of the country between the people? That's the whom to produce question. So every economic system has to answer these three basic questions. Once you solve this properly, the economic system functions. So labor and capital intensive, once again, labor intensive is where in your production process, you use more labor than capital. For example, let's say in Sri Lanka, tea production. In tea production, there might be little machines, but more manual labor. It's a labor intensive. Maybe let's say in Japan, the production of cars. There are little people, but more machines. That's capital intensive. That's the difference between those two. And then, so the other names that we have for this, what to produce in what quantity, is also called the problem of resource allocation. Why is it called the problem of resource allocation? So you have certain amount of land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Now you're allocating. So this much amount to make food. This much amount to, now let's say you decided, let's say total you have resources, you have 100 resources, total land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So you have decided, okay, how much of this am I going to allocate for food? How much of this for clothing? How much of this I'm going to allocate for, let's say, education? That's why we call it the resource allocation problem. Once you decide what to produce, that means you're allocating resources, right? That's why that comes. Then how to produce question, it's also called the problem of production, or you can call it the problem of production technique calls. That's also possible. And then whom to produce, that's called the problem of distribution, because that's about how the goods and services are distributed. Is that okay? I just went through the basics. Now, my product, there are things in the note that I wouldn't have touched much. I would have expected you all to put the read and come. Fine. Garment industry, I would say more labor intensive in Sri Lanka. There are machines also, but more labor. Problem, should we write scarcity? Yeah, you can say scarcity is the central economic problem. Because of this, these three arises. Class ends at 10 o'clock or whenever I finish this part. So class can end early. Our normal class time is 7 to 10. I'll try my level best to finish off by 10. If I finish early, class will finish early. Otherwise, class can go on until I finish off this summarized notes. There is a target level. I won't Like I said, we don't jabber around going on talking nonsense. But if the set target is finished, class will end. Right. So that part is also done. Shall we then take a small break and then we'll come into classifying economic systems and then we have PPC. Yes, economic problems are kind of highly tested in your paper. Yeah. So probably I think economic systems we should be able to finish in like 45 minutes and then we can go into this. If you have nothing to do during the break and if you have not read the note, please read the note. So it's 8:25. We'll take, let's say, a break. I'll give you all a 10-minute break, walk around, get some water and all. And you can take a break till it's 9 minutes now. 8:35. Sharp at 8:35, I will be joining. Some of you all will be leaving and not coming back now. So see you all. The others, I'll see you all at 8:35. Take a break. Okay, right. We'll now get into the next part of this, that is economic systems. This part is not that hard. I'll take around 45 minutes and we can finish that part and then we'll take another small break and then after that we'll get into the last part of the unit, that is PPC. So coming into economic systems. We now talked about three basic economic problems. What were the three basic economic problems? There was what to produce, how to produce, and whom to produce. Now, who answers this? Who is supposed to answer these problems and provide solutions to this? So to answer these problems only, what have people done? People have got together and formed something called an economic system. So to answer these basic economic problems, what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce, what have people done? People have got together and they have formed something called an economic system. So here's it. We say an economic system is what? Mechanism or the institutional framework made by people who live within a society to solve the basic economic problem. So if they ask you in your paper, if they ask you what are the main functions of an economic system, what do you write? You write the three problems number. So what are the main functions? The main functions is deciding what to produce in what quantity, deciding how to produce, deciding whom to produce. Those are the three main functions of an economic system. Then inside this economic system, there are small elements. Now, just like, for example, you all know in your body, you have respiratory system, you have digestive system. So inside that, there are small components. Just like that, inside the economic system, what do we have? Here, there are households, there are governments, there are business firms, there are labor organizations, NGOs, markets, incentives, legal structures, There are so many small components even inside an economic system. That's what an economic system is. So broadly, now this is another part that gets tested heavily, but tested indirectly. The examiner doesn't test this directly. Some of you all don't know this. So how do you classify economic system? So listen to this properly and put it into your head now itself. You all know, guys, you all know business organize. Now, I'll take a very simple thing. O levels also, you all would have learned. A levels also, if you all have done business studies, you all would have learned. How to classify business organization. There are different criteria. One is based on size. Based on size, you say, or based on scale. You say small, medium, large. Based on ownership, private, public. Based on motive, profit-oriented, non-profit-oriented. Based on sector, agriculture, industry, service, and based on different criteria, you all classify business organizations. So just like that, based on different criteria, we can also classify economic systems. Based on different criteria, we can classify economic system. There are three criteria. What are the three criteria? One is based on the decision coordination mechanism. Second one is based on the ownership of resources. Third one is based on the incentives used. Those are the criteria. Like, for example, to classify a business organizer, you all have criteria. One criteria based on scale, based on motive, based on let's say ownership. You all classify. Just like that, there are three criteria here to classify economic system. So then we'll go through these in detail. One is based on the decision coordination mechanism. So there are two decision coordination mechanisms. One is price mechanism. That is where people are self-oriented, self-interested, right, trying to fulfill their things. Price is the dominant factor. So if it is based on price mechanism, if the three basic economic problems, what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce, if they are what made through price mechanism, then we call it a market economic system. We call it what? A market economic system. Then if the decision coordination mechanism in that economic system, if it is something called planning mechanism, if you have someone called a central planning authority, they are the ones making plans and telling, look here, this is how to produce, this is what we need to produce, this is whom to produce. If that is what is happening, then we call that economic system a command economic system, or we can also call this a command, or we can also call it a planned economic system. That is based on the decision coordination mechanism. Price mechanism ng market, planning mechanism ng we call it a command economic system. The second criteria to classify economic systems is based on the ownership of resources. When you say resources, what does that mean? Land, labor, capital, on account. Labor can't be owned, but land, capital, and all can be owned. So based on who owns the resources. So if the resources in that country, the land, the capital, if they are owned by the private sector, if resources are owned by the private sector, we then call it a capitalist economic system. So this is where people make mistakes now. Now, a market economy can also be a capitalist, correct? I'll come to that part in a while. But if they give you a MCQ, and if they say, which of the following economic systems has resources owned by the private sector, even more than market economy, the most correct is a capitalist. That is the correct word. So if resources are owned by the private sector, we don't say market economy. We say it is a capitalist economy. Then if the resources are owned by the government, we call it a socialist economy. That's the second one. That's where some of you all put up, get a little confused. Some of you all now, you all might think, okay, so market economy and capitalist economy, are they the same? Theoretically, they are not the same. A market economy is an economy that uses price mechanism to solve the basic economic problem. So usually a market economy that uses price mechanism in that country, if the resources are owned by the private sector, you can say it is also a capitalism. So usually market economics. Now, when I say market economies, you need to remember price mechanism. So usually market economies are capitalist. What does that mean? Usually economies that use price mechanism have private sector ownership. That's why now some teachers also, they also get this confused. They also put like interchangeable use. So usually a market economy is a capitalist. But can you tell me, should a market economy necessarily be capitalist? Yes or no? Should an economy using price mechanism necessarily, definitely have private sector ownership? They don't have to, Laman. There could be market economies that also has public ownership, can be socialist also. Got it? Then, now for example, then the next one, you see, if you take a command economy, now what's a command economy? A command economy is an economy that uses planning mechanism. So usually a command economy that uses planning mechanism will have public sector ownership. So usually a command economy is also a socialist economy, can also be a socialist. It uses planning mechanism and it also has government ownership. So usually a command economy is also a social. But again, does it necessarily have to be this? Does it necessarily have to be this? No. There could be a command economy that has private sector ownership also. Shall I give you a good example, Lavan? I'll give you a good example of the other one. I'll come to incentive and not come to that yet. Can you give me an example, okay, of a country that is, it's a market. They use price mechanism, but resources are owned by the government. It's a socialist market, in other words. I'll come to socialist market in a while. Resources are owned by the government, but market economy. No, it's not always. That's what I was just saying. Usually, yes, but not always. Can you give me an example? Resources are owned by the government, but they allocate decisions based on price mechanism. That's what you call a socialist market economy. A good example, Lama, is China. So if I talk a little bit about China, you all know, in China, people can't own land. I don't know if it has changed now. In China, people can't own land. Now, for example, in Sri Lanka, your house deed is under your parents' name, no parents or grandparents for their name, no, it's under their name. In China, I have an element. China, even if you take your house, it's under the government's name. Government is the owner and they give you to, they like rent it out for you or they give it to you to use. That's how it works. So resources are owned by the government. Government only owns all the businesses. Government only owns all the, let's say, houses. And then based on price mechanism, that is, resources are allocated based on price mechanism. There is demand, supply, it happens. So therefore, you can call China a socialist market. Okay. I'm not very sure how China pays rent or not, but there will be something there. So a free market is simply a normal market economy where you use price. Free market, same thing. Okay. So remember now, this is also, now you all will come across this when you all are doing some past papers. In case you get stuck, I told you all, it's there on YouTube. Go and watch. Okay, so yesterday's session, I explained what to do. If you missed yesterday's session also, that's also there. No, people can't be the owner. Liberal market is where the government doesn't intervene. You have a free market. Liberal market, free market mean the same. Okay. So is the first two criteria clear, Lamai? Don't get that confused. When they say price mechanism, don't write capitalist. When they say price mechanism, you say market. When they say private ownership, you have to say capitalist. That criteria has to be clearly distinguished and given. Some of you all get that confused. I'll come to socialist. Okay. And then the third criteria, it's not a very important criteria, but also it's also there. That is based on the incentives that they use. Now, what is an incentive? Incentive is what makes you do something. Now, if I ask you, what made you come to this class? Some of you all will say, sir, I came to this class, sir, to learn some econ and to pass my exam. What is that? That's what you call a material incentive. You came to this class for your benefit. You came to this class for you to pass the exam. Not bad, no? It's not bad. That's your motive. What is your incentive to come to this class? What is your motivating factor? What made you come to this class? I want to pass this exam. I want to get a. Some of you all will say, sir, I came to this class, sir, because my mother forced me to go. So my mother told me somehow I have to go to a class. So she forced me and she paid the fees and now she's sending. Then what is that incentive? That's it. The first incentive, you came to this class to get an A and do well. That's a material incentive. If someone forced you to do it, you came to this class because your mother forced you and said, look here, if you don't go, let's see what happens. You know, I am not going to send you in your trip that you're planning to go. What is that? That's a coercive incentive where you're not doing something because You want to do it. Someone is forcing you to do it. And that's so usually, Lamai, material incentives are seen in a market economy. For example, producers will do something if they can get profit. Uh, Consumers would do something if they can get a benefit. Material, they are self-benefit. Then cohesive incentives are usually seen in a command. So in a command economy, like let's say something like, let's say North Korea, you don't have a choice. Government says you have to consume this, and that is your option. You have to do that. You're forced to do that. Government now. Do you all remember this? I don't know anyone. BTS fans. Do you all realize that the BTS fellows are now in the army? Yes. I know the fans. I'm not a fan, but I know since my sisters are fans, I know they are now in the army or something, right? No, not the BTS army. Now they're actually serving in the army or something. So they were forced to do that, right? Now, do you think they've gone and joined the army? They left their popular band and making millions of money. Do you think they left that and went to the army because they love the country and they want to protect the country? No. That's the country's law. They are forced to. It's a cohesive incentive. That is that coming down. Okay. Right. Then, what are moral incentives? You can't classify your economic system based on moral incentives, but moral incentives are you're doing something because you feel that is the right thing to do. Now, for example, you're going in the bus, some old person comes, you stand and you give the seat. You stand and you give the seat. Are you getting a material benefit? No. Are you getting is someone forcing you to give it? No. So that's a moral incentive. So you can't just say that moral is only in traditional. Moral can mean anything. Now, even in a market economy, you can have a moral incentive. No? So, for example, I'm going, I see a old person, I might stand and give my seat. That's why I have not put any economic system in front of moral. This can be in traditional law also, but commonly can be in anything. Okay. Venezuela will not talk about that. If they ask government property ownership or public ownership, has to be socialist. Yes. If they say planning mechanism, yes. Come on. Yeah, that's how you look at it. Okay. Right. That is the classifying part. I just went through this a little bit in detail because some of you all get confused now. Guys, please make sure that you all do the past papers. Now in the fast track, don't just come on Tuesday and Wednesday and learn the recap the theory and just do that paper. Past papers is very important. Remember, I told you all yesterday. That's why we had the whole session yesterday. 90% of the questions you all are getting are from past papers. That's why I even do a free past paper class also. Because I want everyone somehow to come. Even you can't afford a fast track class, you can at least come for free, no? So make sure that past paper part, you also do it. Again, I will do it in class also with you all. Make sure that is done. So I have given you all at the start of this tube, there is no what and what years you have to do. I told you all how to do. So make sure that part is definitely done because there are questions covering all of this. Because no matter how much theory you learn, the question is a very product practical one. That's why I said this area is tested, but not tested directly. Okay, it's indirect tested. So you all will see when you all do past things. So do. Then we'll come into this now. So that is the classifying criteria, but broadly in our syllabus, we will go through three main economic systems. We will go through a market economic system. So what is a market economic system? How do you define a market economic? We say a market economic system is an economic system that solves the problems using price mechanism, and usually resources are owned by the private sector. Then the characteristics are there. Go through the characteristics because these are highly tested. So what are the characteristics? Private ownership of resources, freedom of choice, high levels of competition, because you can go and start anything you want. Then incentive based on self-interest. People will do things only if that benefits them. Producers will produce only if they can get a profit. Consumers will consume only if that benefits them. Now, you're coming to this class not to teach your friend. No. You're coming to this class so you can learn and you can pass your exam, yourself benefit. I am doing this class not as a social service. No, I am doing this class so I can earn an income and my family can live, I can live. So I am profit oriented. Your consumer satisfaction, you're that oriented. So both of us are self-interest, market economic. And then operation of price mechanism. We'll talk about that a little bit in detail. consumer sovereignty. Consumer sovereignty means consumer is the most important person. He has the power to decide what he wants. Now, you all will say, look here, sir, we need a revision class, sir. We want to do papers, sir. Based on that, now I have made a fast track. Now, why do you think this whole fast track concept, why do you think usual teachers, they do a normal theory class, revision class, and then they do mock exam? Why do you think I finished my theory and revision and put all these extra classes last month and killed you all and finished that early so that I can do a fast track? Because I know that's what some students want. They want to, quickly in the last 7 months, they want to recap the entire thing, focus more on papers. That's why you do that. So consumer sovereignty, based on what the consumer wants, happens. That's that. Then limited role of the government. That's a market economic system. I'm hoping you all know the categories. And also, Lamai, for homework, something that has been tested recently, can you all do this? I have not put this in the summarized note. Remember, Lamai, summarized note has around 90% of the parts I have covered. There is still like a 10% of it, which will be there in your theory notes. So it's called a summarized note. So for homework, can you all do the advantages and disadvantages, or you can call the weaknesses of a market economy, and do the same for a planned economy? Do a bit of a Google search, paste in a sticky note, keep it. Those are questions that have been tested recently. So then a little bit about price mechanism, since we don't touch this much in our theory class. So what is price mechanism? Bit of a complicated thing. There was this fellow called Adam Smith. He's called the father of economics. So he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. So in this book that he called Wealth of Nations, he said, any economic price will act as an invisible hand. What is invisible hand? These are our hands, no man. With hands, no, we do work. But price acts as an invisible hand. He said here, price mechanism is the unobservable market force that helps demand and supply. Demand means how much consumers want to buy. Supply is how much producers want to sell. That will match demand and supply to reach equilibrium. Now see, remember I told you all. Now remember in unit 2, we study demand and supply. We study demand and supply, then we study market equilibrium. So do you think in the real world there is something like that? In the real world, is there something called equilibrium price? In the real world, is there a demand equation? Is there a supply equation? Is there can you calculate equilibrium price and quantity for glasses? Can you calculate equilibrium price and quantity for oranges? You can't do that, right? But still, that's why we call it's an invisible hand. Now, for example, let's say I price this class at, let's say, 15,000. 15,000 a month. Right, there is no equilibrium price, but I price it at 15,000. But then I realize no one is coming to my class. I am willing to supply because I'm getting 15,000. But let's say only 1 or 2 students, really rich fellows, are coming. No one else is coming. Let's say I price this class at, let's say, 1,500 a month. Now my cost itself is more than 1,500. I am not motivated, but so many students want to come there. So now, based on the price, you realize demand and supply gets aligned nicely. So right now I have kept it at 4,500. My demand is a little bit more than my supply since my tubes ran out, but still it's okay. So maybe this could be a thing to me saying, look here, for the next batch, for the 2025 batch, either I have to increase my supply a little. I have to print a little bit more tubes and try to get more than 150 people. Or I will increase my price a little and try to reduce my demand. Maybe for the 25 batch, I will say, look here, class fees is not 4,500. With inflation or I might make it, let's say, 5,000 a month. On one way that reduces my demand, on the other way it helps me increase my supply. So it's all about the price that helps balance things, Lamai. That's why we say price is an invisible hand. Even though you don't see it, the price is something that properly balances demand and supply. That's the whole price as an invisible hand story. So you can read this, Lamai. It's not a very important thing, but good to have a broad knowledge. So I have given a product detailed explanation about what Adam Smith says and all, you can have a read. But then this part is important. So when you talk about this price mechanism, price performs like three important functions. What are the three important functions? One is the signaling function, or in other words, we call this the informative function or information function. Informative function. So price provides certain signals. Can you all tell me, Lamana? This you all know. Now, for example, these days, prices of eggs are very high. What signal is it giving? Can you tell me what is the information that thing is giving? Now, egg is being sold at, let's say, 60 rupees, 65 rupees. What's the signal? It's a signal saying what? Just think, Lama, use your common sense for that. Price of egg is 65. What is the signal that price is giving? The signal that it is giving is that there is not much eggs in the market, supply is less, there is a good demand, there's a shortage of eggs there. That's why the price is high. So it's giving a signal saying, look here, you can go and produce eggs. It's giving a signal to the producer, look here, and the eggs are high. That is because there is not much eggs in the market. Consumers have a lot. Consumers want to buy. If possible, go and increase this. It's also giving a signal to the consumer saying, look here, egg is 65 and don't buy. So it provides some information. That's what we call signaling function. Then also, price mechanism provides incentives. So price gives the incentive. Now, how many of you all recently did you all see the did you all go shopping during the whole festive season? I think everyone would have gone shopping, the Muslims and all of you. Seeing that Tamil New Year was there, Eid was there, everything was there. Did you all see the whole crowd in all these places? Noel Mid-10, Fashion One Camp, this and that and all of that. How was the queue and you had to stand on the queue? And did you all also see they were offering different card discounts? Different cards had different discounts, credit cards and all. Commercial bank on this day, HNB on this day, right? They were offering, right? But what happened? So as a result, what happened? So that provided an incentive, no? When there was a discount, let's say they said no limit said under 20% off on HNB credit cards. That is an incentive for you. So 20% off, can price is 20% less, no? So that's an incentive for the consumers to buy more. So price provides what? Price provides incentives. When the price goes down, incentive for the consumer. When the price goes up, an incentive for the producer. So that provides incentives. And then finally, price also rations. Now, can you all tell me, Lamai? Now, what is rationing? Another word for this is allocative function. Can you all tell me? Let's say, Lamai, there was no way that I can print more tubes, right? Let's say right now, I'm trying to print a little bit more tubes to get the others also who want to join. But let's say I have no option like that. Let's say I can only print 150 fast track tubes. Can you tell me? So this is my supply. No? I can only supply this for 150 students. But let's say 200 students want to join my fast track class demand. How can I allocate 150 fast track seats, right? Seats in the sense, seats in the class with the tubes to 200 students. Can you tell me how can price mechanism be used to allocate 150 fast track seats to 200 students? How does this rationing or allocative function work? Practically think and give me an answer. You don't have to know the function. You think that you're the teacher. You only have 150 tubes, 200 students want to come to your class. What are you going to do? What will you do? What will I do? What will I do is I will increase my class fee. That's price mechanism. I will say, look here, my class fees is not 4,500 a month. The class fee is 5,500 a month. So when I increase my class fee to 5,500 a month, some of you all can't afford. Some of you are like useless men. Why should I go to this first class paying 5,500? I can go to another class. Some of you all fall off. And some of you all fall off. Let's say 50 of you all fall off. 150 of you all are like. So that's how you ration. That's how you allocate. That's a rationing function. So using price, you can allocate demand and supply. That is the whole story. So same thing in even if you take cricket matches. Now, if you take a normal test match that goes for 5 days, Like no one goes and watch lamai test match ticket take only 100 rupees. There is no demand for that. But if you, let's say, look at a World Cup match, or even these days, lamai IPL that is going, those matches, tickets are expensive. Why? Because there are so many people who want to watch, but there's a limited number of seats. So how do you match the demand and supply? Using price. That's how the price mechanism plays out. Now, if I decrease the price by, let's say, something, that will increase my demand. That's the wrong thing. Now, for example, let's say I only have 150 fast track tubes, and let's say I reduce my price to 4,000. Then that, let's say some more people will want to join. That's the wrong thing. Yeah, right. Those are the functions of price. Is that okay? Price mechanism and the functions. Sure. Then now market economy done, will move into a command economy. Or in other words, we call this a planned economic system. So how does this work? A command or a planned economic system is where you use what? You use the planning mechanism. And you see, an economic system which solves problems by the commands provided by the central planning authority. That's what you call the planning mechanism. So you have someone called the central planning authority. They are the ones who are planning and telling, do this, do that. So central planning authority, you can think of it like the government. They are telling, do this, do that, and you're doing it. That's the command economy. And also usually resources are owned by the government. Characteristics: public ownership, use of plan mechanism, act based on social welfare, and act to achieve public well-being. So they try to achieve public well-being. You're not trying to do self-benefit in a way. Public well-being. Incentives, again, incentive is that price motivates you to buy. Now, for example, let's say I give you the also this. Don't you all think you all were incentivized to pay the one-time fee? The ones who pay the one-time fee. I told you all fast track monthly fee is 2,500. But if you're paying for all 7 months, there was a discount. If you pay for all 7 months, I gave you a discount. I said you can pay 25,000. So what did I do there with the price? What did I do with the price? That was the incentive function. I motivated some of you all saying, on one end, it's easy for me to coordinate the tunes and I don't have to remind all of you all every month. I can soon print and send the tunes. On the other end, you all are motivated as the consumer because you get a discount. Because instead of paying 4,500 into 7, I can't remember how much that is, around some 30,000. Instead of paying that, you can make a one-time fee of 25,000. Don't have to worry about paying the fees again for the next 7 months. All of it is sorted. You get your tunes on time. Everything is. So that was the incentive function. So because I reduced the fee a little and gave you all a discount, some of you all were incentivized. Some of you all were motivated to pay that 10. That's incentive. So you using price, you can motivate people to use it. Right. Then planned is also done. Command is done. Then now in reality, do you all think there are pure market economies? Do you think in reality there are economies where entirely only price mechanism operates, private sector owns all the resources? Or is there any economies with complete government running the show, only planning mechanism? In reality, there are no pure market and no pure command also. There are examples close to. Now, examples close to a market economy, you have, let's say, USA, let's say, UK. They are close to being a market. But you can't say they are pure market also. Because even in US, there is the government. There are state universities. There are state schools. There are the government who comes and does this. North Korea also, I feel it will be very close to being a command, maybe not a pure command. Maybe there is some private sector involved. I don't know. I'm not studying North Korea in detail, but maybe there is a bit of price mechanism operating there. So those are close examples. So in reality, there are no pure market economies and there are no pure planned or command economies. Pure means 100% market, 100% plan. So in reality, economic systems are a mixture. It's a mixture of, they have both price and planning mechanism. Both the mechanisms operate now in Sri Lanka. So in reality, most economics, or I will say 99% of the economies come under mixed economic systems. What is mixed? Now, when you all are defining mixed economy, don't say a mixed economy is private and public ownership limit. It's a mixture of the mechanisms. So here, a mixed economy is where resources are you both using price and planning mechanism. You use price and planning mechanism both. And yes, price mechanism private sector will use, planning mechanism government will use. It's a mix of them. That's a mixed economy. Then Lamai, what are the characteristics in a mixed economy? These are there. So private sector, self-interest. Government is there who is on social welfare. Then both private sector and public sector owns resources. Make a correction there. And then yeah, decision and resource allocation is done through price mechanism. That's also something that you all have to keep in mind now. Even though price and planning mechanism both are there, price mechanism is a little bit more dominant. Now, even if you take Sri Lanka, most of the things happen based on price. Demand supply is based on price. This class also goes on price. The class fee, based on the class fee, only my demand and supply set, right? So price mechanism is more dominant. Even though both mechanisms are there, price mechanism is more dominant. Is the main thing consistent. Yeah, so main is a plan, market, command, and a mixed. But in reality, most of it are. Then mixed economic systems also can mainly be classified into two. So you have social market and socialist market. Again, something that some of you all get confused. Now, I will put socialist market and this I have not explained in the note. I will summarize this and finish it off. Now, can you tell me, Lamal, what does the word socialist mean? What does the word socialist mean? Go to our criteria and tell me. When someone says it's a socialist economy, what does that mean? Public ownership. So resources are owned by the public. That means by the government. Public means government. Then can you tell me what does the word market mean? Market mean? Market means they are using price mechanism. So then how do you, now what is it? From the word itself, you can get the definition element. So what is a socialist market economy? A socialist market economy is an economy where government or the public owns the resources, public sector owns the resources, but decisions relating to resource allocation are taken using price mechanism. That's what you call a socialist market. Example, countries like China. So in China, like I said, remember I told you all, government owns the land, government owns those houses, but they use price mechanism. That's a socialist market economy. Sri Lanka is not a socialist market. And I am not going into detail into socialist market in my summarized note. But there are past paper questions, if I'm not mistaken, in the latest one. 2023 or 2022, there is a MCQ. Be careful and answer that. Then coming back to the first one, a social market. What is a social market? A social market economy is very similar to a market economy. Then what should you remember? Very easy, yes. Russia also you can take as a socialist market. North Korea, I would say rather than a socialist market, I would go more into a, I would say it's a more planned command type, even rather than a socialist. Russia, and maybe China, Hungary, Bulgaria, those kind of things you can put on the socialist. Yeah. So then coming back to social market, so yes, Cuba also. social market. A social market economy lama is a economy very similar to a market economy. Very similar to a market කියන්නේ මොනවද? Very similar to a market කියන්නේ they are using price mechanism, private ownership. Okay. Yes, mixed economies are only classified into these two. Now, don't get that confused. Mixed economies are what is broken into social and socialist. Okay. So, I'm talking about the first one, social market. I'm saying social market is very similar to a market economy. Very similar to a market. That means price mechanism is there, private sector ownership is there, very similar to that. But the government will intervene to promote something called social justice. So if the government feels something is unfair, they will intervene. I'll give some examples. Sri Lanka is a social market. So I'll give you examples from Sri Lanka itself. Now in Sri Lanka, Lamai, mainly private sector ownership, price mechanism. But government feels there is income inequality in the country. Some people are getting rich and rich, some people are poor and poor. How does the government intervene? Under progressive tax. Rich people, they charge high income taxes, and also for the poor people, they provide transfers. Aswasuma is there, fertilizer subsidy is there, school morning meal is there for students, then Mahapola scholarship is there for university students. Under they give that government intervenes. Then government sometimes feel that human rights are violated. Under government comes and puts a law and order. They do that. So see, yes, the finance all you can put them. But mainly private sector runs the show. But if the government feels if there is no social justice, under government will intervene. Yes. Market economy, see, social market, how I define, I say it's a market economic system where government intervenes to promote social justice. So this social justice, social welfare part is very important. That's how like in Sri Lanka. Mainly private sector, right? Market economy runs the show. Even though market economy runs the show, under government will intervene. Government intervenes, charges taxes. Government intervenes, provide transfers to the poor people. Government intervenes, put rules and regulations. Government intervenes, creates a law and order. They do those. And that's what you call a social market. So don't confuse social market and socialist market. Now, what is socialist market? Once again, that is something like China. Government owns the resources, but they will use price mechanism. That is socialist market. Social market is not that. Social market is very like a market economy. Price mechanism, private ownership, but government will intervene to promote social justice. Is one. Social market is a combination of price mechanism, private sector, also government. Yeah, yes, social market, combination of price mechanism and government. Yeah, somewhere there. Social market, you can take countries like, yes, maybe countries like Germany, countries like Sweden, Finland. Those countries are also good examples. Sri Lanka is also somewhere there as a social market technique. Is that fine? Yes, Norway also. Shape. Types of economic systems. Then, Lavai, before we take another small break, we'll quickly go through this. That is, how different economic systems answer the different economic problems. Remember, these economic systems itself were created to answer this level. That's our basic story. Why were economic systems created? They were created to answer these three basic economic problems: what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce. So how do they answer this? Oops. So how do they answer this? Yeah, I have given a very summarized table. Yes. Government reducing electricity bill also can be put as an example. Yes, so how does social overhead? I'll come. I told you I'll come to it tomorrow. Okay. So what to produce? How does a market economic system answer this question of what to produce? Now, when I say market economy, you have to think price mechanism, private sector ownership, and you have to think of that. So how does this market economic system answer that? A market economic system, they will use the price mechanism they will look at the price signals. They will see, if I supply this good, how much of a profit can I earn? Now I will see, if I do A-level classes, how much can I earn? If I do O-level classes, how much can I earn? What if I teach at a university? How much can I earn? So I will look at the price signals. By looking at the price signals, I will see what is the best for me. And what happens if, based on price mechanism, the most profitable goods and services will be built. So in a market economy, I don't care whether this is good for the society, bad for the society, I don't care. Now, let's say, for example, if I can earn the most by selling cigarettes, I will start selling cigarettes. I don't care whether this is good for society, they will fall sick, not my problem. So based on price mechanism, I will look at the price signals and see what is the most profitable. That only they will predict. That's how a market economy answers the what to produce question, by looking at the price signals and producing the most profitable. Then how does a market economy answer how to produce? Again, when deciding how to produce capital intensive, the labor intensive, they will look at the price signals in the product factor market. They will see, okay, if I hire people and do this, okay, this is my cost. If I do this using some machines, this is my cost. They will look at the price signals and see. And then what they will do? They will select the method that minimizes their cost and thereby maximizing their profit. Whatever that is cheaper, they will use. Now, another mistakes that some of you all write is, now you all say market economy uses capital intensive. No, they use whatever that is cheaper. Usually capital is cheaper. So usually they might use it, but you can't definitely say they use capital intensive. Whatever method. Now, if it is cheaper to get it done using labor, they will do labor. They won't do capital. Whatever that is cheap. And then how will they answer the whom to produce question? Again, based on price mechanism, they will look at the price signals and they will distribute the goods to whom? To whoever who has the purchasing power, whoever who has the, your answer has to be a little bit more detailed than this, what is there in the table. You can refer to your notes, but this also is okay, but you need to expand product on this. Okay. And also when you all are writing answers, if they ask how does the market economy answer this, please don't draw this chart. This is a summarized note. I have drawn a table like this. If they are distinguished, I have told you all answer formats. We have discussed this in our revision class in detail. Answer format, please don't draw table like this and put it. This is because this is a summarized note to make it very easy. Writing things, I will we anyway learn this in revision, but again in the fast track also when doing papers, look, when I have that's why I have given you all answers also for all the questions. At the end of the fast track book, check the answers. How I have given the answer. I don't think I would have given answers like this in tables. Okay. So that's whom to praise. How do they answer whom to produce? They see whoever who has the money, they give it to them. Market economy doesn't care about giving goods equally and all. If you have now, let's say a market economy has produced 100 loaves of bread. One of you all come and you all have the money to buy all the bread. I will give you all the bread. I don't care whether other people did not eat. That's not my problem. Whoever who has the purchasing power can get the goods. Then a command or a planned economy, they are product different. So how does a command or a planned economy answer these problems? A command or a planned economy, how do they answer what to produce? Using their planning mechanism, they look at and they see what are the goods that provide the greatest social welfare. They do input-output analysis and see, they see, okay, we have this much of inputs. From this, what can we produce? What are the goods that give the greatest social welfare? Those are the ones they will produce. Market economy most profitable. But a command economy, they produce the goods that provide the greatest social welfare based on planning mechanism. Then how do they answer how to produce? Again, they will see what production method gives the highest benefit to the public. Now, for example, during COVID, when people were losing jobs and suffering and some people are going into poverty, a command economy might use labor intensive to provide more jobs. Even though it might be more expensive, they will use labor intensive and get it done. That's how that goes. Okay. Schools are said to write differences and all in charts. No, you don't write differences in charts. If the question says differentiate, you can give it on a table, but your A-level paper doesn't have differentiate questions. A-level econ paper. A-level econ paper uses the word distinguish. So when the word is distinguish, you write answers in a paragraph format. We would have gone through this in detail in revision, product check, and also in our past paper class, we'll go through answer formats. Okay. Right. Then coming to whom to produce. So how does a command economy answer this question on whom to produce? Remember, a command economy answers this question whom to produce based on what? They look at, they try to, they don't try to give the goods to anyone who has purchasing power in it. What do they try to do? They try to allocate goods equally. So how can a command economy try to allocate goods equally? A command economy, the government will set the wages. They will set the prices of goods and services. They try to set it in a fair level. By doing that, they make sure, for example, if all of us in this class are earning an equal wage, let's say all of us are earning 100,000, then all of us have access to get the same amount of goods and services, right? No one will be getting more. That's how command economy will solve this. So based on the central planning authorities plans, they will try to distribute the goods equally. Go through that. Then a mixed economy. How does a mixed economy answer this? Mixed economy also, remember I told you all, price mechanism is dominant. No. So here, usually a mixed economy also will solve the what to produce using price mechanism. That means they will produce the most profitable goods, but government will intervene. Now you also know in Sri Lanka, private sector is producing the profitable goods, but then government is coming, and now you all would have seen now a good example I can give is transport. Now, if you all look at transport now in Colombo and all, in the very populated areas, you have private buses. But if you take the very rural areas, where not much people are traveling, in those areas, now a private bus there. You only have the red CTB bus that is going. So, private sector is covering the main Colombo routes and all the expressway highways and all where they can earn profits. But the rural areas where not much people, let's say only 2-3 people are traveling, those buses are the SLT. So mainly using price mechanism, but the government will also intervene to make sure some social welfare is there. Now, even schools, private schools charging high level fees happening. But everyone can't afford private schools. Now government is giving free education. Same thing with hospitals, right? There are so many hospitals out there, but government has free healthcare also. So government will intervene. Then how does the mixed economy answer how to produce? Again, mainly price mechanism, but government intervenes. How can the government intervene? Now, government can intervene and say, look here, private sector firms, if you provide jobs, if you create 1,000 jobs, I will give you a tax incentive. And government is intervening to make it more labor intensive. Government can do the government can do have wage controls, provide subsidies, have standards on environmental pollution. They can do that. Okay. Then also, finally, on whom to produce. Again, mainly based on price mechanism, but government will intervene. Progressive taxes, transfer payments, government will intervene to make sure it's more equitable. So overall, remember, Lamai, market economy, price mechanism, all profit, then that orient. Command economy, central planning authority, planning mechanism. A mixed economy is a combination of both, but price mechanism is product more dominant with the government intervening using their planning mechanism. This is again a very highly tested question in your paper. They will not ask all 9 of this. They can ask you, explain how a market economy answers this, or they can ask distinguish between how a market and a command economy answers this question. You can get questions. So when you all do past papers, you all will see the types of questions you all get. Is that okay? Fine. In a mixed economy, even consumer desire more civil government control. Yes, government. That's why the government controls it using taxes. They charge crazy amounts of taxes for cigarettes. Okay. Right. So that is it with the economic systems part. Okay, two parts done. We have the last part. In the PPC part, this part I will, the efficiency part, I will be covering it tomorrow with the paper. The others I will be covering it today. Shall we take a small, maybe 5-6 minute break and get back by 9:35, probably by around 10:15-ish, I should be able to finish. Not easy for me also to summarize the entire unit in 3 hours, but we'll try my level best. By around 10:15, I should be able to wrap up. So we'll take maybe a 5-minute break until 9:35. So it's 9:29 now. Take a break until 9:35 and come back. We'll go through PPC and we'll wrap it up. I'll take around 45 minutes to go. Price mechanism definition is there. The invisible hand part, that's the definition. Take a break. Okay, right. So now we come into the last part, but should be able to finish this up in around 45. So guys, this part is on the production possibility curve. I think I have a YouTube video of around 2 hours also on this. So for those who kind of are a little blank, I'll try to find that video. I can't remember where exactly it was. I'll send you all the link on the group as well. So for those who are a little weak on this whole topic on production possibility curves, you can go through that video if needed. It's a more detailed one. Here, I'm just going to summarize the area. Okay. So what is this PPC or a production possibility curve? There are so many names to it. You can call it a production possibility boundary, a production possibility frontier, different names. So what is this PPC or the whole thing? It's a line. What line? It's a line that is drawn to show the maximum possible combinations of two goods that can be produced. PPC is a line. It's a line drawn to show what? A line drawn to show the combinations of two goods that we can produce. So let's say mobile motor vehicles and food. So this line is showing us what? The different combinations we can produce. So for example, you can produce, let's say this much of maybe this much of motor vehicles, this much of food. Let's say 100 motor vehicles, 1,000 food. Maybe you can produce 50 motor vehicles, let's say 3,000 food. So this is the line that shows what? The different combinations of two goods we can produce. That's what we call a production possibility curve. Then Lamai, can you all tell me? Now this production possibility curve also represents the potential output of a country. How much of goods a country can produce if it uses all of its resources. How can you all tell me? If you take, let's say, two countries. If you take two countries, let's say the first one that I'm drawing over here, this is Sri Lanka's PPC. The second one that I'm drawing on the right over here, this is, let's say, Japan's PPC. Can you all tell me, why is Japan's PPC much bigger than Sri Lanka's PPC? What are the factors that determine the size of this production possibility curve? How come Japan has a much bigger PPC? How come Japan can produce much bigger combinations of goods than Sri Lanka? What are the reasons, Lavan? One reason could be Japan has more resources than us. What is resource endowment? Resource endowment is how much of resources you have. So maybe Japan has more resources than us. They have more land than us, more labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So that is one determinant of the PPC. How much of resources the country has. So if the country has a lot of resources, their PPC is going to be a much bigger one. If the country has very little resources, PPC is going to be smaller. So one major determinant of your PPC is monada. your resource endowment, or you can call it your factor endowment. What does endowment mean? How much of factors of production you have, how much of resources. So the more resources, like something like Japan, they have more machines, better technology, and bigger PPC. But we don't have much. Our PPC is much smaller. So is it only the amount of resources, Lama? Is there anything else? So one factor that determines the size of your PPC is your resource endo. How much of resources you have. It's not just how much of resources you have, it's also how productive your resources are. Your factor productivity. Now, if you take, let's say, Lama, Japan and Sri Lanka, maybe land area wise, almost similar, not much of difference. But if you take Japan, they have way better technology. So while let's say if we are producing a motor vehicle, we will take, let's say, 1 day to produce a vehicle. Those fellows can produce a vehicle in 1 hour. Way better technology. So they are way more productive than us. And then management, Lama, can you make this management methods? Japan might have way better management methods. They are motivating their employees, right? They are practicing, different motivating techniques, bonus schemes, and more productive. Then maybe Japanese people have better human capital level. They are well educated, government is giving training for them, right? Work experience wise. That is why they are PPCs. Maybe in Japan, they are practicing division of labor and specialization. So because of these reasons, the productivity in Japan can be high. Resource productivity or factor productivity can be. So those are the main two determinants of a PPC. Now, why is this very important? If you understand this, Lama, you can answer any PPC question. If you understand this, you can answer any PPC related question. Why? Now, some of you all know, Lama, you all get, no, in your paper, they are not going to ask a theory question like this. No. In your paper, guys, can you give me 1 second? Hold on. Okay, right. So in your paper, like I was saying, in your paper, Lama, you all are not going to get theory questions from this. No. What you're going to get is you're going to get a very practical question. They're going to give you certain situations and they're going to ask you, draw and represent this on a PPC. The fundamental is this, Lama. That's what I have highlighted on this green box here. So here, note only if the resource endowment, that is how much of resources you have, or if this is not factory, Lama, can you all make a small correction? It's factor. Can you all cut the Y? Right. Or if the factor productivity changes, the PPC will either shift inwards or outwards. The only reason why the PPC will shift in or shift out is if what happens? Only if one of these two determinants change. For any other reason, PPC won't shift. Now, you're not going to get a question saying labor has increased. How are they going to tell you? They are going to tell you, for example, people who are living abroad out of Sri Lanka have now come back to visit, have now come back to work in Sri Lanka. And you should know, okay, people working abroad have come back means and our labor has increased. Labor has increased means and our resource endowment has gone up. Now we can produce more. And the PPC shifts out. They will give you example under there has been a tsunami and there has been some destruction. You should think, okay, tsunami destruction, okay, buildings would have got destroyed. People would have died. Labor would have come down. Capital would have come down. And the resource endowment has come down. And the PPC shifts inwards. They will say our government has provided training for employees. Government by training means and human capital will go up. That means factor productivity and the PPC shifts outward. So they are going to give you questions like that. They are not going to give you a question like labor has increased, labor has come down, human capital has gone up. No, they are going to give you a practical. That's where the more practice you get. They are going to give you a more practical question and ask you to show this on a PPC. So you need to remember, if whatever situation, if that situation affects one of these two, if it has either affected your resource endowment or your resource productivity, only then the PPC will shift. Now, for example, you all know now something like unemployment, increase in unemployment. We don't shift the PPC. Because increase in unemployment doesn't mean that our labor has come down. In Sri Lanka, let's say there are 110 million labor. Just because unemployment has increased, that doesn't mean our labor has come down, right? Still 10 million people are there. That's why we don't shift the PPC. So we'll go into those details, but remember that properly. The PPC will only shift if one of these two things change. They are not going to directly put this. They're going to indirectly ask. They might say, for example, okay, Sri Lanka discovered a new oil deposit in Manna. So oil deposit, okay, natural resource, land. So now our land has gone up. Land has gone up means our resource endowment went up. PPC will shift out. So that thinking you all will get, the more questions you all do. That's why just learning this theory, you have to do the past papers. You have to attempt the paper that we are doing tomorrow. Then at the end of this fast track last month also, there is an entire whole paper to do. And I know, Lamai, now also just the thing to not to make you all feel demotivated. Now I know for some of you all, this is a little tough. That's why, Lamai, some of you all in the middle of this class, you all leave. Now, I'm telling this at the wrong time, but never mind. So for this, for some of you all, it's a little too fast. Now, you all saw when we started, there was around 160, 170. Now there's 120. Some of you are too tired. Some of you all left because you all don't understand. And now, unit 1 itself, if you are a little stuck, means, okay, instead of the fast track, instead of that, you work on getting your theory better. So maybe joining a theory class, or even my theory class recordings and tips are there, you can get that and cover it up. If the theory is what you don't have. But most of you all, I know by now, you all know the theory. What you all want is more question practice and recap it. That's why the fast track program. But still, if you feel you are a little bit of a weaker student, that option is also there. So drop me a text, I'll tell you what you can do. You can get that done. Africa, child labor. Yeah, interesting story. We'll come to it. Okay, right. Then Lamai, there are a few assumptions on a PPC also. You can have a read. Producing only 2 goods, stock of resources remain constant, technology is constant, full utilization, that. Not going to go to. Then here's the shape of the PPC, or in other words, the slope of the PPC. Based on the slope of the PPC Lamai represents opportunity cost. Slope of the PPC represents opportunity cost, or we call it marginal opportunity cost. How to calculate it and all, we'll come to it when we do some questions. But I'll quickly run you all through. There are 2 types. One is constant opportunity cost, and the other is increasing opportunity cost. So if your PPC line is a straight line, we call it a constant opportunity cost situation. And if your PPC is a concave like this, then we call that an increasing opportunity cost PPC. So from both of these also, Lamai, this increasing opportunity cost is the one that is more realistic. So I will come to why is that and how that works. So then what is constant opportunity cost? Constant opportunity cost is every time you produce more and more of one good, you have to sacrifice the same amount of the other good. Here, see, every time I increase this product by 10, 10, 10, 10, I sacrifice this also by an equal amount, right? It doesn't have to be 10. If I am to quickly show this on my notes. So on constant opportunity cost, here see, if my constant opportunity cost. Let's say my 2 goods are bread and bun. Bread and bun. So every time, let's say I increase my production of buns by, let's say 1, 1, 1, I might have to give up bread by 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's what you call constant opportunity cost. So when I'm producing 10 bread, no. 8 and 1, 6 and 2, 4 and 3. Okay. See, every time I increase the production of buns by 1 unit, I sacrifice 2 units of bread. That is my opportunity cost. Opportunity cost, 2 units of bread. I increase bread bun by another one, I sacrifice another. So whatever that I am sacrificing remains constant. That's what you call constant opportunity cost. Then what is increasing opportunity cost? Increasing opportunity cost is, you see, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I have 10. First, when I increase the production of this good by 1 unit, first I sacrifice a very little. Then I have sacrificed more. Then I sacrifice more. Then I sacrifice even more. My opportunity cost keeps rising. That's what you call increasing opportunity cost. When I keep on increasing the production of one good by an equal amount, if I have to sacrifice more and more of the other good, that is increase. If I have to sacrifice the same amount of the other good, that is constant opportunity cost. Hoping you all remember that difference. So based on that, the shape of the PPC is determined. Constant opportunity cost has a straight line, and increasing opportunity cost is concave to the origin. And which one is more realistic? Increasing opportunity cost. This is the one that is more realistic out of the two. Then what are the reasons? Why do we have, this increasing opportunity cost number? You can also call it the law of increasing opportunity cost if you want. Why is it realistic? Based on the reasons. Now, if you take the two goods, yes, there is decreasing opportunity cost. It's not a realistic situation at all. That also you can take if you want. Decreasing opportunity cost. What is decreasing opportunity? That's when you produce more and more, opportunity cost decreases. There, the PPC will be something like this, convex to the origin. Won't be tested. No. Then, coming in the reasons. What are the reasons behind increasing opportunity cost? Why, when you're increasing the production of one good, why do you have to sacrifice more and more of the other good? What are the reasons? Number one, non-homogeneous resources. The resources in this industry is not the same as that industry. So when you're producing more and more of one good, in theory, I go through the reasons behind this in detail. Here, I will not go through that much in detail with the logic, but hope you all remember. Whenever I increase the production of one good, I am taking the best resources from this to that, right? You remember that story. I think in my theory tube, we have example about pancakes and guns. Yeah, the gun and the pancake story. Go through that. Non-homogeneous resource not the same. And then resources efficient in one industry might not be efficient in another. Now, for example, I might be, let's say, good at teaching, but let's say you put me into a software development firm to make a software, I might not be really good at that. So that is also there. And then technology can also be different. So in reality, all of this is there. In reality, if you take two industries, the resources are not the same. Anyone efficient in one industry might not be efficient in another. Technology is different. That's why in reality, increasing opportunity cost is more realistic. Then constant opportunity cost can happen if there is what? Constant opportunity cost can happen if your resources are homogeneous. If the two goods that you're talking about are using the exactly same resources. And maybe if the resources efficient in one industry are the same as another industry, then also it's fine. Let's say I am equally good at teaching also. I'm equally good at, let's say, baking buns also. I'm equally good at, let's say, software development also. If that is the case, you can have constant. But in reality, that will not be the story. No? I might be good at teaching, but if you put me in a bakery to make buns, I don't know how to make a bun. So I might not be efficient there. That's what that is there. So those are the reasons. And also you can put another reason saying technology is the same. Technology is the same. That could also be a reason. This example on this pizza and robots thing, I'm not going to go through. That's what you all are supposed to read and come. It's not a very hard example. Just read through, you will understand. It's very simple words. I have showed you how when you increase this by this, on one side it's constant, on the other side it's increasing. So make sure you read the note and come before the class. Okay. Is that fine? Constant and increasing opportunity cost. Basics of what a PPC is. Calzones, you think of that's a different word. That's like a food, fast food kind of a shape. What a PPC is, the uh, determinants, and then based on that, how you have constant and increasing opportunity cost. Increasing opportunity cost is more realistic. Make sure you know the reasons, heavily tested in your past papers. So please go and do your past papers. I'm repeating this for the 100th time because it's tested, and only then you improve your writing and do it in the way I told you to do yesterday. Yesterday, I told you how to do the past papers. If you missed the session, please go back and watch that session and see on how to do your past papers. Right. Then now we will get into representing a few concepts on the PPC. Again, a very easy area. So few things we can go a little faster. Few things I'll take a little bit time. So starting off with scarcity. So how do you show scarcity on a PPC? Scarcity is any point outside the PPC. Scarcity is a point unattainable. PPC shows the maximum we can produce. So if you don't have resource, if you're having scarcity, that means you can't produce that. So any point outside the PPC represents scarcity. Then how do you show alternative uses on a PPC? I mean, any point on a PPC is alternative use. They will not ask you to show that in the exam. So for example, point A, point B, point C, let's say even point D, any point represents alternative use, different combinations that you can produce. But how do you show choice on a PPC? Choice is not any point. Choice is any attainable point. Now, if you say choice over here, let's say B and C only. Cut D off. A is not attainable element. A is scarcity. So all of that I have put over here, right? You can have a ring. Scarcity is a point outside the PPC. Alternative uses can be any point outside on the PPC, inside the PPC can be anything. Choices on the PPC or inside the PPC, any attainable point, because outside the PPC we can't attain. Also another combination. Then opportunity cost. How do we show opportunity cost on a PPC? Again, very, very important. This part, I think there are a few questions. I will come to it in our paper. Yes, I will come to it in some of these questions. I will not go through very detail now since we're running out of time, but in tomorrow's paper, I will go through very much in detail on that part. So opportunity cost number, you all need to know. Go through this for homework also, maybe before you do the paper. For now, I will go through this tomorrow. You need to know, Lamai, what is the opportunity cost of moving from point A to B? And let's say what's the opportunity cost of moving from point B to A? Here is a mistake. Okay, you can get a screenshot then. Just check out now in case sometimes, guys, because there was a lot of books printed, there could be a few books where some small parts would have not been properly printed. If that is the case, just quickly get a screenshot and you quickly draw them. Especially, I think sometimes diagrams. Some diagrams, there will be like a misalignment here and there. If there is something like that, you just take a screenshot and on top of it, you draw. No problem. Then opportunity cost. One is you need to know what's the opportunity cost of. It's explained over here. Read. When moving from point A to B, what's the opportunity cost? When moving from point B to A, what's the opportunity cost? And then you also should know not just moving. Okay, can you all tell me this, Lamai? What is the opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods? If I ask you that, what's the opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods? How many of you all can give me an answer? My question is, I'm not saying I'm moving from here to there anyway. I'm just saying what's the opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods? Some of you all have got it right. Most of you all have got it wrong. My question is, what is the opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods? Because you're producing 200 consumer goods, How much of capital goods can't you produce? That is your answer. When you're producing 200 consumer goods, you can produce only 150 capital goods. How much of capital goods can't you produce? This 50 you can't produce. I didn't say, Lama, I didn't ask you what's the opportunity cost of moving from point A to B in a way. I'm asking you what is the opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods. So opportunity cost of producing 200 consumer goods is 50 capital goods. This 50 can't be produced. When you're producing 200 consumer goods, you can only produce 150 capital goods. This remaining 50 capital goods can't be produced. That is your opportunity cost. That's what you're sacrificing. Then what if I ask you what is the opportunity cost of producing 150 capital goods? Because you're producing 150 capital goods, how much of consumer goods can't you produce? Because you're producing 150 capital goods, how much of consumer goods can't you produce? Because you're producing 150 capital goods, you can produce 200 consumer goods. How much of consumer goods can't you produce? You can't produce that 100. And that is your opportunity cost. That is a point that most of you all miss. Now, most of you all know this. You all know. Now, if the question says, what is the opportunity cost of moving from point A to B? And when going from A to B, you're increasing consumer goods by 30. You're sacrificing 100, increasing capital goods by 30. And you can say consumer goods come down by 100. So you can say, okay, 100 consumer goods is my opportunity cost. Why is it not the other way around? Opportunity cost is what you're sacrificing, right? So for example, you can't say opportunity cost of producing 150 capital goods is 50 capital goods. Opportunity cost is what you are sacrificing. So when you're producing 150 capital goods, what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing 100 consumer goods. Get the basic plan. Opportunity cost is what you are foregoing, what you are sacrificing. So you can't say opportunity cost of 150 capital goods is 50 capital goods. Has to come in terms of the other good that you are sacrificing. So that's why I'm telling you, product, read through this. I will go through this when we are doing some questions also. The questions also product are tough ones. In our past paper class also, I will go through this in detail. Go through the ones who were there in my theory class. Go through your theory class recording. I think for around half an hour, 45 minutes, I explained this entire story. All moving from point to point at exactly at this point, how do you tell opportunity cost? Then where do you use the equation, the marginal opportunity equation, where do you use? So those things you need to be mindful. If you have my theory class recording, go to that part and watch it. I will also kind of recap it in the paper. Yes, since this is not a theory class, I'm not going into very basics, hoping you all remember those small things. Okay. Then this part of economic efficiency, like I said at the beginning, I will cover this since this is a thing that will take around 15 minutes to cover. There is a question in your paper for paper 2, a big one. I will cover it in that part. What is economic efficiency? How does the diagram look like? Then what is production and allocative efficiency? We will cover that in the paper for tomorrow. So that is about a few microeconomic concepts. The diagram also will come. Then Lamai, if we talk about some macroeconomic concepts that can be represented, so how do you show something like full employment on a PPC? Full employment is a point on the PPC. How do you show unemployment? That is a point inside the PPC. Now, what is this arrow and all? Now, if the question is saying there is an increase in unemployment or heading towards unemployment, and then you can just show you the arrow and a point. If they just say unemployment, just a point. If they say moving towards unemployment, heading towards unemployment, then you can draw a arrow and show. Then what is a recession? Again, it's there in our paper. We will discuss. What's a recession now? A recession is a situation where the aggregate demand decreases. People are not spending. Consumption has come down. Yeah, investment has come down. Now, this happened during COVID. Now, during COVID, we were not spending. No, we were only spending on essentials. Aggregate demand comes down. Then can you all tell me, Lama, when aggregate demand comes down, what happens to production? Will firms produce the same amount of goods? Now, during COVID, we were not buying clothes. So, were No Limit and Fashion Bug and Odell and all, do you think they were producing the same amount of clothes as they did before? Were they? No, right? They would have decreased. So, when aggregate demand comes down, production comes down. So, when production comes down, Lama, now do you think No Limit needs the same amount of people sewing clothes? Earlier, they were producing 10,000 clothes a day. They were hiring 1,000 people. Now they are just producing 500 clothes. Do they need 1,000 people to produce 500 clothes? So what starts to rise then? What does No Limit do? They fire people. No? Some people are laid off. Some machines are just idle now. So what will start to rise when production comes down? Unemployment starts to increase. So how do you show that on a PPC? The end result of a recession is unemployment rising. No? How do you show that on a PPC? By a point inside the PPC. That's how you show a recession. Then what if the recession continues, Lavai? If a recession continues for like, let's say 2 or more quarters, what happens then? What happens, Lavai? What if a machine is just kept unemployed for like, let's say 6 months? No one is using that machine. They have just kept a machine there. What happens, Lavai? That machine might get destroyed, right? That maybe some rats have gone and ate some wires. Now that machine is not working. Then what will happen to people? Let's say someone's sewing, he has not been doing anything for 6 months. He will might lose his skill. So what do we say? If a recession continues for 2 or more quarters, that could lead to a depression. Economic dip, that is where resources start to get destroyed. So then your capital comes down, your labor skills come down. That is why we are shifting the PP. Can you see? I told you PPC will only shift if those two factors change. Now, in an economic depression, when resources are getting destroyed, your capital is decreasing. Your labor is coming down. That's why your PPC is shifting. In a recession, you didn't shift because in a recession, nothing happened. Your resource endowment didn't change, productivity didn't change. So those things are fundamental. Right, that's a depression. Then how do you show economic growth on a PPC? Economic growth is, you all know, Lama, with economic growth, what happens? Technology improves, human capital improves, right? Things get better, no? So a country can produce more goods now. That is a shift of the PPC outwards. And sometimes, Lama, economic growth or growth in general doesn't have to be overall. It can sometimes affect only one industry. Now, let's say, for example, this is the food industry and this is the motor vehicle industry. So let's say we have imported some new machines to produce food, ovens and technologies. So food industry has grown. So when the food industry grows, Lama, you can't shift the PPC, both of this. Then what you will do? You will shift the PPC only for the food industry. So that is what you call imbalanced economic growth. That's called imbalanced economic growth. So there are questions on this also. We'll go to. That's good. Then this one. Again tested in a recent paper. That's our last part for today. Current consumption and economic growth. How many of you all remember this story, Lama? Can you broadly tell me what are the two types of goods the economy can produce? Broadly. The two types of goods. Last part. Okay. As long as you not fall asleep, give me an answer at least. Proud that you have been staying at one place and listening for 3 hours. What are the two goods? Consumer goods and capital goods. What are consumer goods? Consumer goods are the goods used by the final consumer, right? You consume, it's over. Food, clothes, mobile phones, those. Then what are capital goods? Capital goods are the goods used to produce more and more goods. Factories, machines, equipment, those are capital goods. So then tell me, Nabai, if a country is producing, let's take the first graph. If the country is producing more consumer goods and less capital goods, what can you tell about their current living standard? Current living standard is high or low. Current living standard level is always measured based on consumer goods. What can you say? these people's current living standard level is high because a lot of consumer goods, very nice food is there, right? Nice clothes, all of that is there. So current living standard is high. Then what can tell about in the second graph, the second country? They are producing a lot of capital goods, very little consumer goods. So food also not much choices, clothes also very basic stuff are there. So what about their current living standard? These people's current living standard is low. These people's it's high. What about Lamai? The future growth potential. Now, this was a question that was there in the latest A-level paper also, where you can nicely write answer. What about the future growth level? In the first graph, they are making very little capital goods. Machines, buildings, and all are very little. So in the future, their growth will be not that the growth will decrease, but growth will be less, no? Will be low. So their future growth will be low. So can you see, Lama? The PPC is shifting only a very little. Economy is growing, but only a little. Why? Because they have not produced much capital goods, no? Because capital goods are produced to produce more other goods, no? So if you produce more machines, buildings, and all, then in the future you can produce more and more stuff. So, but see, in the second graph, Lama, can you all see? They are producing more capital goods. So what can I tell about their future growth? The second graph, let's say country 2, their future growth potential is very high. So even though they sacrifice their, see, there is a trade-off there, right? Second graph, they sacrifice their current consumption. Current living standard is low. What? In the future, they have high growth. Country A, or the first graph, currently they were having very little. Let's say trade-off means you're sacrificing some. First graph, they had very high living standards. But what did they trade off? What did they have sacrificed? In the future, they will have low growth. So when you try to get this, you have to let go of that. Yes, can you have both of this? That's also a thing that can you have high living standards and also high future growth? Is both of this possible? For example, can you consume a lot of consumer goods? Can you be producing a lot of consumer goods and also having a lot of growth in the future? Is that possible? Generally, no, but there is a possibility. Can you give me the possibility? Usually, no. Usually, if you have a lot of consumer goods, that means you're not producing much capital goods, future growth will be less. But I'm asking you, can you do both? Can you also have high levels of current consumption at present and have very high levels of future growth in the future? You can do this if you can import your capital goods. If you can import capital goods, you can do this, right? Right now, you're in your country, you're having a lot of consumer goods, you're producing. In addition to producing a lot of consumer goods, you're importing capital goods from abroad. Therefore, in the future also, that is like an exception now. Generally, you all saw in the first graph and second graph. In the first graph, when you're having very high current consumption, not much capital, so future growth is low. In the second graph, very high levels of capital, so future growth is high. You can have the best of both if you can import your capital goods. So that part I have given over here. The ones who gave me a correct answer are the ones who read the tutor and came. That is the last line. How many of you have read this and came? If you read this and came, you would have figured out that was there. That's why you are supposed to read then come. So that is basically it with the summary for Unit 1. I know it's not the most interesting one, and it's not the most this in both. It takes time. Okay, so in 3 hours, I somehow summarized Unit 1, what I would have taught in around 20-24 hours in theory. We quickly summarize it in 3 hours, going through the main areas. There were certain areas that I skipped, like the economic efficiency, some parts. Those are the areas that I will be covering in the paper itself. For example, the types of capital. I didn't go through social overhead capital, economic overhead. So I'm covering that in the paper. Your first question is on social overhead capital. Then PPC and opportunity cost part, I didn't go through. Yes, so I have put these questions to cover PPC and opportunity cost. So whatever the small parts I didn't go through in the theory recap, which we just did, I cover that using the paper now. That's how it's made, somehow to overall cover everything and cover the most difficult areas and get it done. So what I want you all to do now is you need to do this paper and come so that we can discuss this paper and you all can clarify your doubts along when we discuss. So it's only a 2-hour paper. It's not a paper that will take a long time, but it's a bit of a difficult paper. You will feel demotivated when doing this. You might think you're the expert of unit number 1, but even the people who are at a level of 90 might only, let's say, get 75 for this paper. That can happen because the paper is made a little tougher, nothing out of the syllabus, but focuses on more tougher things. Past papers are much more easier. After doing this paper, you go and try some past papers, you will realize past paper question is more easier than this. So for tonight, what you need to do, maybe you can do it tonight, tomorrow, early morning, whenever. But tomorrow, before you come to the class, by 7 p.m. is our class, you need to do this 2-hour paper and come. Then in class, we will discuss this paper. We will mark it together and we will discuss the paper. The answers of this are also there. Some answers are put up wrong sometimes, MCQs, but sometimes I type it wrong. Please don't look at the answers. Genuinely do the paper. After doing the paper, you can read the marking scheme. No problem. You do the paper on your own. Marking scheme is there at the end of your, I don't think the PDF has it. The printed book has the marking scheme. At the end of it, the marking scheme is there. You can read it. You can go through and get that done. Okay, so that's the homework that you need to get done before tomorrow. After that, we'll work on past papers. So if you all have any questions, you can stay and clarify. If not, thank you for coming. I will see you all tomorrow at 7. See you. Have a nice day.